Welcome to the Arm Wrestling Buzz podcast. This is Hollywood Matt Connelly with the double biceps. It isn't the contract a legal requirement every single time we appear on camera. I'm getting outgunned here by the a wonderful guest who's on the show today. It is none other than the Chocolate Thunder himself. It is Jody Williams. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate that. And just so we're clear, I'm all forearms, not as much guns like you, but
well, it's good for me. I can hold at the bottom, but I always lose in the middle. So I guess down here I'm fine. I can hold it all day, but I get there pretty quick.
Gotcha.
So yes, we were just having a quick chat about the King of the Table results, which I think is going to be the theme for this episode of the show. And yeah, very excited. It was a good event overall in terms of the production. It seemed to didn't have any hits and misses, and it seemed to flow fairly nicely. There were some drawn out matches, but it was sort of the matches that you wanted to see. And like the Eddie Hall Brian Shaw match, I think went for 52 minutes or something like that. Yeah, it was a lot, but it didn't feel that way watching it. I didn't at any point sort of go, oh man, this is taking forever. There was a lot of drama going on in between rounds, and Eddie was talking trash the whole time. Overall, like, your thoughts on the event?
On paper, it seems like every event tries to outdo the previous event. And I'm thinking, okay, on paper, we're like going, man, this is an awesome card. And I don't want to say the card ended up like a wet fart, but it just seemed like I'm glad that Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw did what they did, because I think, in my opinion, that kind of saved the event. I'm glad Dave Chafee won, but it kind of saved the event, because the two title matches were like, what are we doing? Because, well, first of all, what match do you want to talk about first? We'll go from there.
Well, what about just an overall feel of it, and then we'll start going into the matches.
Let's see here. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, I'd say probably a 6.57.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, definitely not one of the best cards that they've had. The main event for me especially was a bit of just a wipeout, a letdown in a lot of ways. And it was like, okay, yeah. Well, I guess that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you what, well, hell, which one do you want to start with first? Because I got a lot to say.
You got a lot. There was a lot of matches. Well, why don't we'll go through from the bottom. We'll see Kevin Palco and Joseph Moranto. I wasn't too familiar with both of these guys. I wasn't that invested in the result of the match. We got Joseph with a win 4-1 over Kevin Palco, which I think a couple of the people that we'd sort of polled on their thoughts going in, most people had picked Kevin, but I think they'd picked him just because he was the only one that they had heard of. So yeah, difficult one to, when you don't know the athletes, it's a little bit tricky.
The only thing I know about the other guy was that he's from, if I'm not mistaken, he's from Arizona. So now that he got a win on the actual Joseph, now that he got the win, then that's going to put him on the catapult on the map. I'm telling you right now, because a lot of people in the States, they know who Kevin Palco is. I mean, he's all over the place. He's on his YouTube channel and training and all that kind of stuff. And he went down. It's like going, okay. But I think people need to understand this. Just because you lose the match doesn't mean that you're a bum or anything like that. It's just like, okay, I lost. Cool. I'm somebody else's highlight reel. Now it's back to the lab. It's time to get back to work. And I think that's what Kevin's going to do, because I know that match kind of left a bad taste in his mouth.
Yeah, for sure. There you go. Well, that's exactly the way that it played out there. But great win for Joseph, 4-1. Dominating the first two rounds, and then the last two as well. So yeah, only one slip up there with the third round not going his way, but he walks away the victor in that. Moving on to the Lachlan Adair and Lars Rubakin match. How did you feel with that one?
I picked Lachlan to win. Yeah. I thought it'd be too strong, but this goes to show you, as we go on to the matches throughout the show, that when an athlete is one-dimensional, and that person figures out that, that one move that person has, then it's up to you in between rounds, whoever's in your corner, to say, look, we got to come up with a plan B. You have to make the adjustment, so, and we all know there's people out there, men and women, who have that one move, and it's one of two things. Either one, yes, I got one move and I'm damn good at it, or it's, yeah, I got one move, but, if I get exposed, then I'm dead in the water. So you have to make the adjustment, and I think that, it just, Lars didn't make the adjustment.
No, exactly right. Yeah, that's one of those things with both guys being very, very good arm wrestlers. I'm just trying to get the image on the screen so we can see.
I like that. Where'd you find that out? I like that.
It's one of the options here. I'm just trying to sort of make it visible for everybody so that they can still read. Because
what's up, Aaron Castillo? Welcome to the show. The Drew 24. Sylvester Stallone. Everybody, welcome to the show.
It's always good to have the guys in. How's that look? We still, yeah, that's better. We can read that. Aaron Castillo as well. Yeah, the Drew, of course. The legendary Drew, is always in the chat. Sylvester Stallone, my favorite nickname. But yes, so yeah, Lachlan Adair getting the victory 4-1 over Lars, and it did look like he was comfortable the whole time. Even the pin that Lars did manage to get, in that fourth round, where he really got his shoulder right behind and was able to set in that press. And you can see that when he gets that press in, it's pretty bloody hard to stop it. But as you said, he is sort of laying everything he has on getting into that position. And that's one of those things when you're a specialist and people can counter your move, and they know exactly what you're going to be doing, and they can game plan against that, especially for months leading up to an event. You better be really bloody good at that one move, because people will have the preemptive thoughts as to how the match is going to go leading into it.
Well, let me ask you a question. Can we agree or disagree that the King of the Table rules are kind of loose, right?
Yeah.
And I say that because this is for all flop pressers, right? And when I say this, I say it with love. I'm not, getting on these guys, but we'll take two people, for example. We'll take Lars and Jablonski. And I know when you see those guys, like, is it me? Or maybe it's the camera angle, but their shoulders are like way across the table.
Yeah.
And I'm like going, do y'all not see that? But like I said, maybe because as the audience where we're sitting at, depending on where the camera is pointing at, it seems like, okay, no, he's fine. I'm thinking, damn, because his whole body's like all over here. I'm thinking, dude, like, what is going on? Just something I picked up on during the event with Lars.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, you're right. It is one of those things where I think the sport is still trying to find the balance as to what is the ideal in terms of rules. Like, do we want more loose rules, or do we want the super strict style? Because both come with positives and negatives. With the super strict style, you're going to get a lot more foul outs, and probably a lot less arm wrestling. Plus, the setup seems to take forever. With the looser rules, it's like, yeah, okay, you can get a match started a little bit quicker, but sometimes people really manipulate positions, and they can win off of the way that they set up, as opposed to getting a fair match.
Uh-oh, here comes my soapbox. You ready for it? Here we go. So we all got into the sport, and I got into the sport in late 2010, and we were brought up on the strict rules. And the loose rules might have been cool for camera, TV. I get all that. But it also made us very sloppy at the table, And the thing, even with ref script, we all grew up, when the ref says don't move, that's exactly what we do. We do not move. But people are loading so hard that, and all of a sudden, people are loading back before the ref even takes his hand off both competitors' hands. I'm like going, okay, that should be a foul. But they kind of just, swallow that and go, okay, knock it off. I'm thinking, all right, now everybody's going to do that now. So I think, and I use an example, and we'll talk about him later with his match, Marcel Barboza. I want to say 2017, 2018, something like that. And he came off a wall, WAL, back when it was on Bleacher Sports. He came off the WL season, right? You got the 3 fouls, whatever, the running fouls, whatever. When you're so used to that and you train for that, well, later that fall, November, he went to Zlati, right? He went to Nemiroff, fouled right out. So when you go from one organization with this set of rules, and then you go to another organization with another set of rules, you got to make that transition, that change, because it's kind of difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Completely. And you're absolutely right. If you go from one to the other, whether it's going from super strict to really loose, or whether you're going from loose to the strict style, both people have to make the adjustment. And you can see the guys, and I think this happens with a lot of the European pullers who tend to pull under really strict rules, is when they come over. And the match I'm thinking of specifically is like Hermes Gasparini and Matt Mask, where there was a lot of manipulation and movement and stuff happening in the grip, which Hermes was so not used to at all. He was like, "What?" And then I'd say, "Go," and he'd get pinned, and he's like, "But what? You can't start a match like that." So, yeah, it can be very difficult. I think if somebody is going to go and compete in the opposite organization's rule set, then train in that for months leading up to it, because you have to get used to it, and you can't just be like, oh yeah, I'll just enter it and see how it go, and then all of a sudden you foul out, or your opponent gets the best possible grip on you because they're allowed to for some reason, and you're not expecting it. So yeah, it is definitely something that athletes need to be aware of.
Well, I'll give you an example. One of the leagues I participated in is the WSA, which is the World Series of Arm Wrestling. And what they do, there's a 3 foul system, but every match is a rest grip. Okay. So if you false start, that's just a foul. So it kind of keeps you honest, because it's production, all that kind of stuff, but everything's in the rest grip. So we're trying to get this thing moving, so no one's trying to manipulate the setup and all that kind of no. Elbow down, it's a rest grip. The ref will always ask you, do you want a cap or no cap? Before you even, before they even do all that, they ask each competitor. That way they can get right to it, because honestly, you got some of these pullers coming from across the country, and I came here to pull, not sit there and mess around and thumb wrestle and all that kind of stuff. I'm here to compete, and we all do that. And when you waste time doing all the other stuff, I don't understand why people do that, but that's just, my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, it is frustrating, and it's one of the parts of the sport that I really don't actually like very much, is all the manipulation that goes into a setup for a match. And you can see people beating somebody else just because of the way that they set up, as opposed to their skill or their strength, or their other abilities, which maybe the other person is far superior than them, but they just aren't as good at cheating the setup, or the other person was able to manipulate something that they shouldn't have, and that's how they won the match. It's like this, so frustrating.
Right.
But yeah, again, it is one of those things that I think arm wrestling is still trying to figure out, like what is the best path forward. Is it the 3 foul system? Is it 2 fouls? Is it starting in refs? Is it starting in a neutral grip? Or is it, there's so many different organizations that are out there trying different things and seeing which one works the best. Right. So with AWE, for example, we have 20 seconds, find your own grip, whatever grip you guys decide you're both happy with, we'll start it. And if you both are halfway over the center line and you're 1 inch from the pad, but both of you say you're happy to start there, we'll start it. Like,
wow. I was wondering how AWE kind of, what the rule set was. So
right, yeah. So that first initial 20 seconds, like, I don't care what grip people take. You can have your pinkies locked against each other. I don't care. If you guys agree to it, I'll start the match no matter what. But if you can't agree, then we'll go to ref's grip and we'll go strict. But it seems to work really well in tournament format as well for some reason. When I was editing back the tournaments that we've done, because we use that same system, I'd say 90% of the matches started in the negotiated grip. And it was just like people would say, okay, you guys take your grip, whatever grip you guys are happy with, I'll start it. And then so they mess around for 10 seconds. They both sort of settle into something, and I'll say, okay, don't move, and then I'll check. Are you happy with this grip? Yes. Are you happy with this grip? Yes. Okay. Go. And there you go. So it just seemed to work really well, as opposed to even with refs. I mean, you've still got to line people up, get their shoulders right, and all the rest of it. And the hands, you can't do this. Oh, you're carving. This person's this. He's loading, and as a referee, it is very frustrating, because it's sort of like, well, do I foul everyone on if they cup like this a little bit? It's like, oh no, that's a foul. You only get
I'll
2
say
fouls.
This though. Hey Matt, I'll say this. I bet if you start giving out fouls, I bet they stop.
Yeah, well, I thought the same thing. I had a match a couple of weeks ago with 2 guys that are known for completely trying to manipulate every single thing they can in the grip. And I thought exactly that same thing, because I've heard that a few times. It's like, if you start handing out fouls for really small movements, then they'll stop moving, and they didn't stop moving. The whole match was a farce. It ended up both guys got fouled out in every round, which sucked.
Yeah, it's almost like what was that? Was that stage 2 of the top 8? And it was Rustam Babayev and Tim Breslin, and every match was an elbow foul.
Right.
And I'm not going again. This is where, and you can argue about, was it a really elbow foul? I'm like, okay, if you guys know what the rules are, put your elbow down, get your grip. When the ref says go, do whatever you want within the rules. That's my approach, because, I'm a referee too. So it's like, do what you want within the rules, but listen to what I'm saying. If I say don't move, that's exactly what I mean, because I will foul you out. I don't care who you are and what you are, because we all paid our registration fees so we can compete. Did you come here to mess around? Or did you come here to compete? If you come to compete, then just do what we got to do, and then, go from there.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
Drew says, I prefer don't move, go. And see, don't move means don't move.
Yeah.
Ready? You ready? You ready? Go. It all depends on who the ref is.
Yeah, that's the thing. It changes ref to ref.
Yeah.
And even if you're in the same organization or the same same club or anything, it's different ref to ref.
It's different from table to table within the event,
Yeah. It's so tricky. It's such a difficult thing. It almost feels like it'd be so much better if there was some way to eliminate the need for the referee in some capacity. Maybe there's like some special handle or glove or something. You guys both put your hand in it, and then when you both pressure, it like releases or something. I don't know, but yeah. It at this point, we've got referees and everyone tries to do their best job, but unfortunately, the part of the sport that is frustrating to watch, I think, from everyone's perspective, is just the manipulation that goes into getting yourself the best possible position to start the match with.
That's why I'm like, just ref grip it, because that way I know I don't get screwed out of a match. If we ref grip it, then it's pretty much even Steven, and then the ref can tell who's messing around. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair enough. And I mean, if the competitors followed the instructions from the referee, then it would be easy. It'd be fine. It'd be no issues whatsoever. Be like, here's your shoulders. Right? Don't move your shoulders. Okay. And 2 seconds later, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is this here? Comment from Captain Marsh, I guess. CPT MOJ, Captain Marsh. Maybe, I don't know. If ref is touching folks, whether meant or not, they give somebody faster info. Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. If you're setting somebody's shoulders and you put their shoulders in the right spot, or if you're tapping their wrist or something like that, I guess, yeah, okay. As opposed to standing back and trying to command the match with just your voice. I'm guessing that's what you mean there. I always prefer a ref's grip, says Ryan. It sounds like you're from the Jody Williams school.
Well, yeah. I mean, and we know the new thing now is that you're at a tournament, you get to a table or even a super match, and all of a sudden your opponent goes, "You want us to go to ref grip, or you want to just go to straps?" And I'm like, I don't mind the strap, but it's like going, okay, now it's getting to a point, and let me get your thoughts on this, Matt. It's to a point now where, hey, the strap is now actual style. And it's my opinion was for two reasons. One is because they can hide the fact that their wrist is not that great. Or B, hey, I'm better at the strap than I am, without the strap. So I'm gonna use that as my style now. That's just what the sport has evolved into that now. So
yeah, that's right. It definitely has. Although I do like it when people do agree, and it's like, do you want to start and strap? Because I'm gonna get out. Like I'm just gonna slip.
Right. Because if I say no, and I've done this before, matter of fact, it was a James Wall match. He asked me. He said, "Hey, you want to go to strap?" I was like, "No, let's just see where it goes." For me, as a hand dominant arm wrestler, I like to dominate my opponent's hand. I like to control the hand. And if they come to me and say, "Hey, you want to go to strap?" I'm like, "No, I want to see where this goes." Okay, all they're gonna do is just ready, and they're gonna slip out anyway. So it's like you got what you wanted. So I probably should have said yes. So memo to everybody out in the chat: work your strap game, because if someone says you want to go to strap and you say no, they're gonna find a way to slip anyway. So.
That's right. Yeah, it's very frustrating in some aspects, because they're like, you want to start and strap. If they say no, they're like, okay, fine, and they grip up like this.
Yeah,
they're like, whip.
Exactly.
It's like, well, that was a waste of everyone's time. Thanks a lot for doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna bring this up here. This certain thing that has a certain somebody in it.
Yes.
So I'd love to get a talking through of your thoughts of this match here. Jody Williams against James the Brick Wall. Left hand, Washington State Championship a couple of weeks ago. So we've got the grip here.
Yeah, this was right before, he said, "Hey, do you want to go to strap?" And I said no. And of course he bailed anyway. So I'm thinking, crap. So now my mind was like going, okay, on paper and the way he looks, he should be able to control me in the strap. Right. So I had to make sure I had to keep my pronator locked if I could. And I really couldn't, because, the refs were straightening us out. So my objective was to roll straight over top, apply so much back pressure on the go with my fast twitch muscle that I rolled over him easier than I thought I was going to. And that kind of surprised me. But it was one of those situations where, okay, I'm here. Now I got to stay there. My issue was that I got his hand. I want to go for the pin real quick. And I found out that, he has just as much stamina as I do. And so if you watch the match, we were kind of going back and forth, I'd take his hand, he'd scoop me back up his side, and then I bust out of it again. I try to surge and I couldn't finish, and he was shaking his head no. And then he pulled me back to his side. And, it was just one of those things where you have to use every 7x7 inch of that elbow pad. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's see it play out here. So it's just about to start. Getting final instructions from the referee. There we go. As you said, you've got the hand and rolled into a really dominant position, and credit to James to be able to stop that right there. You've got everything going your way, all the momentum and everything, but he was able to sort of get into a position to be able to hold on. So right here, did you think, hey, I'm on my way to the pad? I'm going to keep rolling for the pin.
I thought I was going to, but then my mistake was I wasn't patient enough. Because then I tried to come back up and resurge again. And as you see, when I tried to come back up, so I wasn't getting the pin. As you can see, when I came back up is when he kind of, sucked me back in. You know, I was there. I'm thinking, I'm hearing people in the background. I actually heard my wife screaming, "Stay there, stay there, stay there." And I could have stayed there, but I feel like I was losing steam. I feel like, I was losing my advantage. It was coming toward the center. And I felt him taking the back. So my objective was to come back and then reload again and hit.
Right.
If you want to go ahead and play that.
Yeah. So he's trying to get his shoulder behind.
Right. And see, now I'm getting separated.
Yep.
And I tried to go for a press, and that didn't work. And I ran. Well, there's a reason why they call him James the Brick Wall, because I tried to shoulder press a couple of times and it just didn't work.
Yeah, every
You
time
know?
he's pushing his shoulder forwards, you're just rolling through that hand, and then he has to go back to defense.
Yes. I'm trying to come up. I'm trying to go for that press, and it's just, see, right there, trying to get my shoulder. And that's when you start shaking his head because I couldn't do anything. Normally, with my opponents, I can apply that side pressure and then come up and rotate and get my shoulder behind, but it didn't matter. He was that stout in that spot.
Right.
And so, I'm thinking, crap. And now when you pause it right there, look how open I am.
Yes, I was thinking.
And anybody else seeing that would be like, oh, okay, well, then Jody lost his match because he's too opened out. But my pronator was strong. So, like, this goes back to when we started the show and you said, hey, you're doing the bicep thing. This is why my bicep is, not the big, it's my forearm. So I'm still trying to, pronate. That's my goal, because if I can keep his hands somewhat flat, I have a chance. That was my thought.
Yeah, like right here, it looks like James is, he's smiling, you're smiling, but yeah, your hand is so far away from your shoulder, and he's been trying to get that press position the whole time. It looks like he's just about to bring that shoulder forwards and just pin straight through, but no, you throw again, you hit again.
Now, when I hit, I should just stay. See, I keep coming back up. I should have just stayed there.
Right.
But if you see my elbows at the back of the pad,
yes.
When I slide forward, right there. See, once I slide forward, then I was able to kind of put him in an actual spot. I drove kind of at him.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to explain, but you saw it, right? So
when yeah.
drove my elbow forward, it kind of gave me a little bit more height to go side.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's coming up.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Watch the elbow on Jody. There it is.
Right there. Yeah. See?
He wasn't expecting that either, because you changed the leverage when you did that. Try to get the exact moment where it happens. So right there, he's comfortable. He can hold that. It's not great for him. He's working really hard, but he's okay. He knows he can catch it every time you roll through. And then now that just changed the perspective. The angle has gone way more in your favor, and you did it quickly. And his arm is still in the exact same position. Right. And then bang, he went to press because he probably felt the pressure release when you went forwards. He's like, oh, I'll go and press, and then you've thrown through. So he's had to go from offensive pressure back to defensive pressure, but you're in a much better position with leverage, which is what allowed you to get that pin right there.
Well, a couple of things. One, when I slid my elbow forward, I got a little bit more height. So there's that. Yeah. And number two, I had to keep my pronator for me to even survive in that match, because at any given time, had my wrists got supinated backwards, I would have been done. There's no coming back from that. So that was my fear during that whole match. I got to keep this. I got to keep that. I got to keep that, because if by chance it goes this way, I'm done, right? So again, keeping your wrist flat, depending on if you're an inside guy or outside guy, you have a chance. So if I'm pronating, right, if I can keep, my opponent's hand like that, I have a chance to bust it back.
Yeah.
It works in reverse. I'm here. If James puts me like that, keep my wrist flat, then he'll have me like that. So it's about, keeping your wrist flat. Who can manipulate the move from there? Will it be the outside guy? Will it be the inside guy? And that's all it is, because I'm back pressure driven, pronation, and he's shoulder driven, inside. So it's kind of like it's a chess match, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, something I only realized maybe 6 months ago was with the low hand top roll position, it prevents. This is what I found. It prevents the opponent from being able to cup their wrist, but it also stops me from being able to cup my wrist as well. So you sort of get stuck in this position. Look at my hand so you can see it like this.
Yeah.
Then you're both locked into that. And then it becomes more about who can sort of throw and get a pronation position over the other person, because it's not that you're getting a cup and then a roll. You're sort of locked into a pronation position, like you're putting both of you in that, and then it's like you got to hope that your side pressure and your pronation is going to get you through. But it's one of these things that you pick up. There's so much to this bloody sport.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you, and we're 29 minutes in, and 40 to 50 seconds. Had I not applied any kind of back pressure prior to the match, he probably would have rolled right through me. But because I had that height and I had some back pressure added to that, his first move, I blocked his move, and I just kind of went over the top. And we'll get to that because there was a match that happened at King of the Table that talks about how somebody rolled right over the other person. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Absolutely. Well, it was a fantastic win for you, though. I mean, that was a big opponent, big name, and yeah, what a great match as well, and what a good technical demonstration of how you can regain height even if you're at the back of the pad. It's like come to the front of the pad, and you'll get all this extra space that you've just gone from like this. You push your elbow forwards, and now you're vertical again. So yeah, especially if you do it quickly like you did, and quickly, and then with a hit straight afterwards. So the opponent's like, they've moved, and before they can make the adjustment, they're on the defense. But now they're on the defense in a worse position.
Thank you. Well, I think also too that a lot, not everybody, but a lot of us arm wrestlers are so, want to put their pressure on the elbow pad that they use that elbow as a pivot, and they don't really move it as much, So I realized that. How many times have you, pinned somebody, you got to the pin pad and you're surging, you can't do it. Well, guess what? If I'm here, right, and just move your elbow forward, see if the angle goes down, right? So if y'all can see that again, if I use this coffee mug, right? This is the pin pad. I got my opponent here and I can't really get there, and I'm surging, right? If I move my elbow forward to the pad, then it drops down. Now we got a parallel pin, right? So it's just little stuff like that I've done at practice with some of my guys that, okay, I got to figure out to beat you. So if I can't do this, I'm just burning myself out over and over, because I don't like the fact that when people say same thing, only harder, you're just burning yourself out. You know? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is when I catch somebody down at the bottom end, and I know that I'm 1 inch away from being pinned, but I also know that there's no way they're going to get that last inch.
Right. Like, yeah, you get stubborn. Yeah.
Yeah. You feel that first 100% hit, and you catch that one. And then the second hit is like 80%. And then the third one's like 40.
Yeah.
And then they look at you and you're like, yep, you're not getting past it. You're not going any further. And yeah, they'll try one more hit. It's usually like 60, 70%. And then that's it. They got nothing left after that. But it's like the guys who do that, they move their elbow forwards and cut that angle off. It's like, God damn it. This is going to be way harder to hold now.
Well, I mean, we just saw my match with James where I'm surging over, and I got a lot in the tank, but every surge I got is not going. So if I don't, figure out, like, in my mind, I was like, if I'm surging, maybe he's getting weaker, but maybe I'm getting weaker. So something's got to happen, because I'm just surging my butt off, and he's just like, yeah, okay, I got you. I'm not going nowhere. That's when he, started shaking. He was like, no, it's not going to happen. And I'm kind of going, yeah, it's coming. So a couple surges, I slid and came that way, just slid up here, got more height, and then just blasted that way, and it caught him off guard. So again, if I don't do that, I don't win that match. I burn myself out.
That's right. I'm just looking for a match here. I want to show you of the exact example of what I was talking about. Where is it? Yeah, it's Kiwi Sam. It's one of the guys we had who came over from New Zealand. He started a club over there. His name's Sam, really nice guy. And he wanted to have a match together. I had felt pretty confident in our training that I would have the edge, but in the match, you never know what's going to happen in a match. And yeah, he was a lot more crafty than I was expecting. But let me look it up. I'm trying to find it.
He's from New Zealand?
Yeah. He's living in Adelaide now as well. So he's transitioned over to our club, and yeah, so I found it here. I'm just going to bring it up because for me this was a perfect example. And all right, so here we go. So he gets the inside game. I'm going to hold and catch that with a really deep cup. Caught that first hit. And now I'm just going to sit here and let him work.
Well, what I'm seeing here as you're playing this is that, so the guy in the red shirt, what's his name again?
Sam.
So Sam's already committed, and you're just like, you haven't really moved yet. So, by Sam, it looked like at first on a go, he's going to come shoulder commitment. When he went straight to the side, he already moved. And you're like, if I stop you here and you already moved, I haven't moved yet. I can just blast you if I wanted to. But it looks like you kind of just drain his power. And then you finally,
Yeah, there we go. That was it. So yeah, that's sort of my I guess a perfect example of what I tend to do is just sort of sit and hold and make people get exhausted, and then I'll pin after that.
Well, it looked like you were timing it. Like when you realized he was burning himself out, he starts breathing harder. You're waiting for that exhale. When you exhale, you have nothing. You can blast somebody. And a lot of times, people kind of stare at the person like, okay, he's breathing hard. Okay, a few more breaths, and then as soon as they exhale, that's when you take off.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that last move right there, he put everything into that drag. It was hard to hold that. You can see I was grimacing there. He put everything into it. I've caught it, and I'm like, that's enough. I'm going to pin you now.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, it just reminded me of that when we were talking about being able to catch people in those positions and hold them. And yeah, if he had brought his elbow forwards and cut off that angle and kept that pressure on let's say in a press position, really covering my hand so that I couldn't just bicep flex out of there. I would have got tired eventually. But yeah. All right, well, let's go back to the king of the table because that's what we were talking about before. So we had Lachlan Adair against Lars Rubakin. Lachlan coming away the winner as 4-1. And we were talking about specialists and Lars Rubakin obviously having that press as his specialty. Although there was a couple of times where he sort of dropped back into like an extended open top roll position, and Lachlan was the one who ended up pressing. But there was several fouls, a lot of restarts, which was really frustrating. It's one of those rules I think they immediately need to change. If you're on your way to the pin pad, with momentum, you're about to be pinned and you elbow foul, it should be a loss. Like you don't get to foul, like break the rules and get a reward from it. So
yeah, that's why that's a cheap way, honestly. That's just my opinion, man. I could be, I'm not trying to change the whole, thing or reinvent the wheel. But I think that's a cheap way of doing that,
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, oh, I'm about to lose. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. Haha. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, but it's within the rule set, so it's almost you can't blame the athlete if they've created that situation within their rule set and they say, okay, well, let me read the rules. Oh, I'm allowed to do this. Okay, well, I'm just going to do it then. But yes, just make the adjustment. Core sports, and just say, you can't, if you're going to foul in a losing position and the referee deems that you were about to be pinned, then it's a loss. You'd stop all those bloody restarts. All right, next match we had Corey West versus Tobias Sporong, and Tobias ended up being the victor there, 4-2, taking the first 2 rounds, and then Corey coming back, getting the third, the fourth, before Tobias was able to make the adjustment and hit through and win on the 5th and the 6th round. So to come up a winner 4-2. Did you watch that match? What did you think of that one?
Well, you already said it. The key word, adjustments, right? So Tobias, for a guy that big, is super quick. Like his fast twitch muscles are amazing, and it's almost like if Corey learned how to slip, it seemed like he figured it out, but he was so quick that Corey didn't have a chance to even try to slip, and it was like, ready to go, bam! I'm like, and he just didn't have a chance to slip, so he's down 2-0, and you can see because Corey is a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeve, so you can tell he's down on himself. I'm like, Corey, I'm yelling through my laptop, shake it off, man, let's go, because as soon as you slip and get that strap on, I promise you, it's a different story. I promise you, Corey. Sure enough, what happened? Got into that strap. Now, and even Corey, man, you don't really see Corey get fired up like he did. Because when he got that strap on in match 3, or in round 3, and he blasted, Tobias to the pin, it was like, yeah, strap game. You know, now I'm like, okay, here we go. Now we're gonna wake up. Now we're gonna wake up. You know, but it seemed like the last, because it was 4-2 Tobias. It seemed like match 6 was like discrepancy, because it seemed like Corey was saying it was a bunch of false starts, where the replay showed it, even slowed it down. It looked like he was right on the go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, that's why we implemented with AWE our instant replay protest. So every athlete gets 2 protests per match. And if there's any call that you don't agree with or that you want to be reviewed, you can just say, I just want that reviewed. I think he started early, or I think that he elbow fouled, or I think I got a pin there. You know, can you just have a look at it? And it's like, no worries. And then within 5 seconds, we've got the replay up, because we have a really good production team. And it's like, okay, they just want a review of the pin, or they just want a review of whether it was an early start. And straight away, we're looking at the replay, and it's normally done on the big screen in the room as well, so all the athletes can see it. And so, you know, it slows it right down, and you would see, say, if it was a false start, and you'd be watching the referee's mouth for the go, and it's like, is there movement in the hands? It's like he's saying go there, they're both not moving. Okay, well, now they're moving after he said it. So no, it's not a false start. But yeah, I think that when you haven't got that ability, it's very frustrating for an athlete to say, well, I think this dude false started and it shouldn't have been a pin. And they're like, well, too bad, that's how it is. And it's like, you know, if you don't have the ability of recourse to question a call, if you think it went the wrong way, it must be very frustrating as an athlete.
So here's a question. I mean, and you know, we talked about adjustments, right? So why didn't Corey, because this is probably not a style, I don't know, but it seemed like in the match, like that round 6, it seemed like that Corey did not have any kind of back pressure. Because if I'm, you know, trying to stop that fast hit, because it's happened to me before, I'm notorious for, you know, taking off on the go. What stops that? A lot of back pressure. Why didn't Corey use that? And I'll play armchair quarterback for a second. You know, if I'm down 3-2, if I get pinned, I'm done. If I stop that and go to strap, I've been successful, which means I'll beat this guy. We'll go 3-3. We'll have a silver bullet match. So why wouldn't we not slide our elbow just a little bit forward, just load back as hard as you can? Because that'll stop that. Because the way he was hitting Tobias, when he takes off with back pressure, his wrist is going to go like that. Either Corey's going to catch him and pin him, or Corey's going to slip out of that going, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get in the strap because now you're in my world. I don't know why it didn't happen. It was just like, okay. You know, it just seemed, the way that match ended seemed kind of like, ooh, is that how we're going to end the match? You know, like, hey, false start. I'm like, no, I think he just got you on the go. No, yeah. And like I said, nothing against Corey, but it just seemed like Tobias got to go.
Yeah, that's right. I'm just looking at it right now. Let me bring it up on the screen here. So I can't do all right, share this screen instead. Okay, and then I'll bring it up for everyone to see.
Yes, Captain, I agree. Folks are always talking about, you know, how come Corey didn't get to the strap? I totally agree, you know.
Yeah, well, let's see if I can time this so that I don't get hit with a copyright. So okay, it's happened there already. Jeez, it must have been quick. All right.
So it's a rest grip, and you know, still you can load. I mean, not like super like off, no, not off to, you know, off the pad, but you can apply back pressure.
Yes, absolutely.
So exactly. So why didn't he do it?
Listen, take it to the 7th silver bullet round.
Go!
Oh!
There it is. What do we think? I think that there's always a delay with the sound that comes from what's happening on screen. Sorry, what's happening in real life, and then what you get in your ears. There's always a slight delay. So I think that's important to remember.
But see, Corey's like me in a sense where, you know, he uses that big paw. Not saying my hand is like Corey's or anything, but he wants to be able to control the hand. And sometimes, you know, for the better of the match or whatever, sometimes you got to bail and just say, hey, I'm not going to squeeze you. I'm just go ahead and lightly grip you. Because all I got to do is this, you know, and then, you know, we slip and we're going to go on the strap. Because everything's happening so fast, they can't say, oh, well, you bailed. I mean, how do you know? He fucking took off that quick. I'm going to sit there and go, where'd he go? And just go like that. Slip. Cool. In the strap. You're done.
Yeah.
That's just me, though.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess that's another part of the arm wrestling game is that you've got to be super fast with your reflexes and you've got to time those starts, because if somebody else is just lightning quick, they might be way weaker than you. But if they time that start and they're explosive and it's like go, and you're 3/4 of the way to the pin pad before you realize the match has started, and then you try to turn everything on, you're going to get pinned before you can even put pressure.
That's what made Andre Pushkar so dangerous. And he hit that bullseye every single time. He would sit there and just whack, you know, every single time. And he was coming like down on you. Not to the side. He came down. He sat there and, you know, he had a long arm for one. And then when he loaded up like this, you could see him do this. And then when he came down, it was boom. Made it lethal, you know?
Yeah. Well, Captain Marge, I'm gonna call him that. I don't know if that's what his name is, but I'm gonna call him Captain Marge. Says Jerry, Corey, and Eddie couldn't get strap. Is it so easy? I am asking the pros. What do you think, Jody?
It's what we talked about earlier. If a guy has to go on the strap and you say no, let's pull, he's gonna get into the strap. You know, it's because what you do is you don't try to grip. If you notice, anybody that asks you that, and when you grip up, they're not going to clamp on your hand. They're just going like this. They're not putting any kind of pressure.
Dead fishing.
Yeah, like almost like a dead fish. And what they're going to do, because they're not trying to grip you, they're trying to slip. You can't slip by clamping down, because what's going to happen, you're going to end up like this. And then if you try to slip, then you may get in risk of, hey, slipping, losing position, you know, winner. You know, so again, and we'll get to Jerry, because I'm like, what the fuck, dude? I got so many opinions about that.
All right,
you know, and I felt bad. I mean, I picked Levan to win, but I also picked Jerry to pin Levan, because I thought that if Levan would win the whole, you know, match, but Jerry got a pin in one of those matches, then everybody would be talking about how Levan got pinned, and it didn't happen. But like I said, we'll get to that.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one. Matt Mask and Marcio Barboza, a very dominant victory for Matt Mask, 5-1, looking in great form. That high top roll, just too much for Marcio. His game, he tends to look a lot better inside when he was trying to match Matt Mask's up height. I mean, that's Matt Mask's world up there. He's a very tall man. I think he's 6'6" or something like that, and that long forearm. Plus that's where he is comfortable. That's where he wants to be, is in that top roll position. So if you're going to match him up there, you better be bloody good at that. And Marcio Barboza is an excellent arm wrestler, but he was just unable to compete with the abilities of Matt Mask right at the top end of the top roll.
I just think that from a style standpoint, Matt Mask is a bad matchup for Marcio. We've seen it in Wall. We've seen it here. It's just a bad matchup, you know, stylistically, right? So the only way I thought Marcio was going to do anything with this match is if get into the strap, dude. You know, but Matt is so lightning fast. He has a long lever. And he has that low hand where it attacks your the low hand top roll, it attacks your pinky finger. So, like, dude, it's the bad matchup. All, you know, and it showed, you know, 5-1. So, and Matt's coming like whack, and he's cranking hard too. You know, why didn't he slip? Could he have slipped? I don't know. Because then if you because again, this goes back to hand dominant. If you're a low hand top roller, good move. And by the way, let's just say this before I get into my spiel. There's a counter for every move, by the way, just so we're clear. So because of that low hand top roll, he's controlling the hand. I don't care what no one says. You're controlling the hand. Whereas, yeah, there you go. Play this. You're controlling the hand. Had Marcio slipped and got into the strap, well, they are in a strap in this one. I just thought that you don't have to use your hand as much, and you can rely on that big arm of his. The problem is that long lever and that super hard pronation, he didn't have a chance to react. When he reacted, it's just like you said, Matt, when you're 3/4 away from the pin pad before you react to it, it's kind of too late,
Yeah, we can see it here. I can't play the videos because of the copyright thing, but screenshots I think are okay. But so they're just about to get closed here, and then you see the next frame right there, and it looks like Marcio is only just starting to apply pressure, and you can see how far he's lost the center completely. His wrist is completely dominated. Matt Mars all over it. There's no way out of that. His wrist is just going to flop back if anything happens. His defense at that point, there's no way to pronate. There's no way to put back pressure. You're just going to have to flop the wrist and try to get your shoulder behind and use your bicep to pull yourself up. But good luck doing that when the momentum is already flying in that direction. So, yeah, it ends with a pin. But
it's easy for us to play armchair quarterback, Matt, because after the match is all said and done, Matt wins 5-1, and you kind of go, wait a minute. How come Marcel didn't apply down pressure at the beginning of the match?
Yeah.
Because you got a long lead. I mean, think about it. And this is just me, right? If, let's just say you and I are pulling on the table, right? And let's just say you have a bigger hand than me. It doesn't make sense for me to attack your hand. That'd be the dumbest thing ever, right? So what I'm getting at is that if you got somebody like Matt Mass, who's already 6'6", anybody who's that tall is going to have some long legs, long arms, the whole shebang, right? Then why would you even I'm going to try to grip you just a tad bit low, not too much, and I'm going to apply down pressure because then at least it'll somewhat slow it down. If you're arm to arm, if you're like this, arm to arm, and he's loading hard, you can probably, maybe come out the back door. But if he's like this, right, like this, then I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to apply down pressure. So when he takes off, I'm going to come like that. Shoulder committed, come down on it at least. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I mean, that's the thing is that, as you said a second ago, it's easy for us to say this is what he should have done and all the rest. But at the end of the day, I think what we're doing is we're just analyzing matches and then saying, look, this is some of the techniques that could have been implemented if somebody wanted to adjust. Because you sort of say, well, yeah, he won. It's like, well, how did he win? It's like, well, he got a low hand top roll position. Well, what can the opponent do to stop that? Well, if he did this and this. So we're just sort of trying to explain the options for both athletes as opposed to being like, he's an idiot. He didn't do the thing that he should have done. Like, that's not what we're saying at all.
Well, that and when we get to the main event, that held true. We'll get to that.
There's some strong feelings coming up for Jody Williams.
Yes.
Gonna build.
When I say this, I'm not really digging at Jerry. I just want that to be known now. I'm not digging at him, but it's like, the fuck are we doing? But we'll get there. We'll get there.
That's right. I'll just answer this question here from Scuba Steve. He says, where's Paul? Paul is taking a little bit of a break from the arm wrestling scene at this point in time. He will be back at some point, but he's started a new business, a junk removal business called Forget About It. And he's put all of his time and energy into that at this point. He has got a YouTube channel you can follow, and he's doing a lot of stories and updates and videos about how he's putting the business together. So that is
is Scuba Steve missing Paul? Is that what it is?
I think he is.
Here, I'll do you one better, Paul. I'll tell you what.
Well, what are we going to see? We're going to see like a live action figure of Paul Italia. Oh, there we go.
Let's roll. Let's roll with it, okay?
You just need the cigar now.
Hey, I don't have the sunglasses, but if you're missing Paul Italia, I got you. We rolling. What's
That's
up?
perfect. That's perfect. You just got to put on the New York accent now.
I know, right?
A cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, let's move on to the next match. So we had Sandra Sedris and Rustam Babayev, the winner 4-0, Rustam Babayev, a dominant victory over Sandris.
Here's the thing with I mean, how explosive. I mean, did Rustam look great or what?
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
anybody, and I want your opinion on this, Matt, because anybody who's that compact, and I don't mean like from a height standpoint, but like compact. Okay. So you're gripping up. Here's the peg. And he's like this. And it's kind of hard. Like, can you make sure that his hand goes out his shoulder like that? You know, I thought Sanders' height would have played a factor, but Rustam had a great game plan. He made sure, I'm going to keep you here. This is my area. The minute I get out here, I'm going to probably slip or I'm going to lose. So I got to keep you in here, you know? And when he just drove like that, it was just like, okay, I don't know if you want to call it a peg deck or what, but he came in here and it was just really whack. And he was so quick here that, you know, now he can kind of take a breath and then continue driving down or dragging back or whatever. And it just, you know, and Sanders didn't have an answer for that, you know?
Correct. Yeah. And so tight. He was bunched up. You know, it was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm ready. You know, and on the side, it was almost like this. You know, there's no extension of the arm. It's not like he was out like this to start. He was like right in. It's like, yep, all right, but straighten my wrist. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, you know, and I'm like going, man, that's just when you see that kind of stuff, when you see like good hook pullers, like Krasimir, for example, Rustam Babayev, you know, Zoliev, those good hookers, they come straight in here and it's hard to get them out, you know. So what's next for me? Tournament wise, I'm basically taking a sabbatical, kind of sort of. I'm still training, but I won't be competing again until April. I'll be doing the house with Greg Sharp. We'll be filming down in LA, so I'll be doing that. But tournament wise, probably not until probably June, unless something happens, and you know, I might. Who knows? I might come out of nowhere. You never know. But yeah, that's where I'm at now.
Oh, that's it. Drew, what are you saying? It's height, not high. Height. What are you saying, Drew? You're saying one of us says it wrong? Is that what you're saying? How dare you? You've got the accent, not me.
Well, it's the H is silent, so it's all right.
Okay. It's
but yeah, so again, man, and I'm glad because, you know, remember when Babayev pulled Paul Linn, right? Busted his pec, what was it, round 2 or round 3 or whatever? I can't remember what it was. And it was like, okay, and Paul won by default because he couldn't continue because of the injury. I think that was when Paul won the belt, right? I think Babayev was the champ at the time. And Paul beat him, so Paul kind of won, but Paul's like, yay, I won, but okay, he injured, that kind of thing. Took time off, healed, came back, had the rematch, beat him. And now all of a sudden, now where do you put Rustam Babayev at now? Now he's starting to, you know, get some steam now.
This comment is confusing me. I think it's a joke, but hell, you see Rustam getting interviewed with Sarah, and it looked like if he came home to her with open pay pact, he would be smashed. All right. I don't know what you're saying. Let me say that Sarah looked like she would beat him up or something. I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, he's smashing the 6'4" world champ. Yeah, well, you know, like I said, it's one of those deals, you know, where like, okay, where does he go now? You know, because he's looking like, just when you think you had all the answers, you know, these guys come out of nowhere and get these wins, and now there's more questions, right?
Absolutely. Daniel Hughes says, what weight do you typically pull at nowadays, Jody?
242.
There you go. Asked and answered. You asked the question, you got the answer. All right, let's move on. So Paul Linn and Krasimir Kostadinov, 4-0 for Krasimir over Paul Linn. What went wrong for Paul there?
Okay, so the way I saw that was like, because on my other podcast show with Ryan Espy and Nathan Williamson, we had our predictions, and I was the only one that picked. No, I was the only one that picked Paul, I believe. And I said, if Paul can keep that wrist flat, he has a chance. But sometimes you might not be able to keep Krasimir's wrist flat. He is so lethal and so fluid in his hook. And it's like, you know how like you get two magnets and they kind of do that. It's like once he gets this, it's hard to get him out of there. And I don't know if Paul, and like I said, I could be wrong, but I don't know if Paul decided, hey, you know what, I'm gonna hook this guy and see what happens. And I'm thinking, okay, strike one, you lost. Strike two, you lost. I'm like, okay, now we gotta try something different. And if you for those that watch the pay-per-view, here's the beginning of what the hell's going on in people's corners. So I love, from the bottom of my heart, I love when all the U.S. guys, North American guys get together, saying, hey, what's going on? What are you, they're rubbing you down. They got your shoulders, they're getting your ice pack, someone's getting you water, and you're getting advice. And I get that. There was a moment where Devin goes, hey, can you Kings move? He asked Paul Linn, can you Kings move? I'm going to say this right now. Now ain't the time to bust that out with it. If you haven't worked on that, that is not the right time to do that. Sorry. No. You know, like I said, man, and this is where, okay, that might work for Devin, but it may not work for Paul because I don't believe Paul trains like that.
No, that's right.
You know? So, again, you're asking somebody to do something that you would do, but if they don't train like that, then it's kind of difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have said, see if you can get in the strap and see where it goes from there. That way you can, at least it can help you, you know, tie that strap. And when you're like this, that can at least, you know, flatten that hand. And then if you want to go, try it that way. But just going straight in there, you're just going right into his power.
Yeah, that's right. It is vitally important to have good cornermen. And I'm very surprised that most of the time, the athletes will use the other athletes on the card as their corner. And it's like, do you not have your own team or your coach that came with you that should know your game inside out, that's been working with you for months on the techniques and skills and adjustments very specific to this matchup?
Right.
Where are they? Why are they not there? And now you're getting advice from Devin Larratt, who doesn't know your style, or, you know, maybe sort of knows what you do, but not everything. And they're just going to be telling you what they would do in that situation, as opposed to knowing what you have the ability to do.
Here's my advice. And this is not a knock on Devin, by the way, but here's my advice. I was in a match with Justin Green out of Utah last year, and Jamie Schulter was my corner man, and Bob Brown was in Justin's corner. And Jamie says, hey, man, just so you, before our match, he says, hey, just so you're aware, I don't know how you pull. I don't know how you train. But what I can do is tell you what I see from my view. Tell me what you see from your view. And then after each round, we'll get together. We can, you know, exchange notes. That's probably the best thing I've heard, because, yeah, when you have somebody, you know, it's one thing to say, hey, can you get in the straps? That's typical. But when you ask somebody to try something different, like, you know, hey, I try King's move, like, does he train like that? I don't know. But yeah, it would make sense when you have somebody in your camp that knows you and stuff and say, hey, try this. And, you know, hey, I'm trying. But also with super matches, you realize that, you know, you can really see who's one-dimensional. Not saying Paul was, but you can really say who's one-dimensional, because now if you don't have a plan B or C, you're kind of fucked, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It just really does surprise me that, you know, there are these big events where so much is on the line that it's like, okay, you've gone all the way there, and then it's like, it feels like at the last minute they go, oh, can somebody corner me? Can I get a corner? What about you, Corey? Can you come over here and corner me? Like, you know, it's like that seems to be how it feels. And it's like, you know, the guys are obviously going to want to help you out. Yeah, I'll help you out, but I don't know anything about you or the way that you pull. So,
Right.
yeah, the advice you got to get is not going to be as optimal as somebody who is a specific coach that has worked with you on what adjustments and everything that you're going to make to go into that. I think from the European side, you tend to see that a bit more, that it tends to be their team that is there with them as opposed to the other athletes. Although you do still see it a little bit with the when they have the East versus West matches, and you see some of the Eastern athletes will still be there, but maybe they do actually train together. But yeah, I'm always surprised by that, because game planning and adjustments, especially in a super match where it's first to four and it's like, okay, the first two things you tried didn't work, and you might be out of ideas. Like, you might be like, I don't know what to do, but your coach maybe say, well, the reason you're not getting through with your move is your elbow positioning, or you're not applying back pressure, or you're, it's just anything. Maybe you're not seeing it. But to have somebody there that can really give you very specific, helpful advice is critical to finding success. And I'm just surprised we don't see more people doing that.
But on the flip side, maybe the people he trains with could make it. So, I mean, there's a lot of variables why. So, but yeah, but other than that, I think, man, Paul is just like, dude, that's our Captain America. Like, what the hell, man? Like, dude, just keep his wrist flat and you got a chance. Just keep your wrist flat and you got a chance,
Yeah. Where does Paul go from here?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's this weird dynamic between Paul, Lachlan, and Krasny. Like, it's just weird, with both those three,
Yes. Yeah, it's almost like they're all very similar, and they all just beat each other. Like, it doesn't work. Like, it's not like one of them stands above the other. It's like rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, it's like A beats B, B beats C, but C beats A. It's weird, it's just weird.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know where that places either guy. I mean, because Paul, it's like, okay, I've seen some people calling for a rematch with Lachlan, but it's like, well, he dominated that match pretty comfortably.
And now does Lachlan get the rematch with Krasny now?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's coming off of a win, a good win. Krasny's coming off of a win. Maybe that's probably the better match to make for both of those guys. What happens with Paul? I mean, it's a tricky situation to be in being part of three guys that can all beat each other.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I'm not a promoter. I don't have to make that tough decision. So.
That's it. All right, next match we had was a very comfortable victory for a legend of the sport in Dave Chafee, taking on one of the new upcoming superstars, hopefully in the arm wrestling world, of Gabor Botta Ducat. It was a 4-0 victory for Dave Chafee. Only 20 years old, or 22 years old, I believe Gabor is. So his first opportunity on the big stage.
I believe he won the WAF Worlds in the juniors and seniors division.
Right.
I'm not mistaken. Yes. But I'm glad for Dave. I think he needs that. I know some people were saying, is he healthy enough yet? Well, he pull, was it Frank Rowe he pulled? I can't remember the last one he pulled, but he won his last match, and nobody knows your body better than you. And if Dave says his body's good, then you're going to have to believe him, right? You got to take his word for it. I also heard that the stem cells work for his elbow, not so much for his neck. So take that how you want it. But, it was funny because then it was a Sunday or Monday. I can't remember what day it was. And I was watching a video by Pradeep, like Dave and Saplinkov sometime in 2025, the third and final chapter. I'm like, interesting. Because my first thought was like, so we're just going to ignore the fact that Dennis was supposed to pull Hermes? Like, what are we doing here? And I guess the response was that, I guess both guys agreed that, Hermes is too strong for Dennis. I'm like, oh, okay. So what does that?
Well, we've frozen up. Are we frozen? We're going to come back for Jody. This is always the awkward moment where I don't know if Jody can still see me. But Jody, at the moment, you're frozen on my screen. You might have to. Yeah, there we go. He's dropped away, and we'll get him back again. And there he is.
Oh,
Chocolate
frozen
Thunder.
babe. What was the last thing you heard me say?
It was when you put on the cowboy hat. No. After that, everything was in a New York accent. I don't know what happened, but
I was saying that I don't know where I left off, but I was talking about how there's a match between Dennis and Dave in 2025 at some point, and I was like, well, are we going to ignore the fact that it was going to be Hermes and Dennis? And what I got in response was the fact that both guys agreed that Hermes is too strong for Dennis. So I'm like, so what the hell does that make Dave then? Like what the fuck? But nonetheless, that'd be cool to kind of re-enter that. I hope it's not one-sided, because when we had John versus Dennis, we're thinking, oh, cool. And then it was 6-0. So it's kind of like,
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm still seeing, sorry, there was a comment here from Aaron Castillo, which has got me thinking that he might not be correct. Lachlan won some rounds, though, and is likely better equipped to take Paul on now. I thought it was a 4-0 win for Paul Linn over Lachlan.
Yeah, I thought it was, but, like I said, it's just, is Paul coming off 2 losses?
No, I think he was, he won his last couple in a row, because he beat Lachlan, then he beat somebody else. Right. And then this was the first loss he's had in a little while, I think. Yeah, it's always hard to remember everyone's, match history.
There's so many athletes. It's like, oh wait, do you forget about guys like Rivas and Prutnik? And it's like, oh god, because there's so many people now, right? So
right. Oh, here we go. Aaron has clarified what he meant. He meant Lachlan versus Krasimir. So yeah. There we go. Sylvester Stallone says the 105 kilo wild horse is one serious contender. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what's that, 230? 105 kilos is what, 220, 231. Yeah.
I'm sure he can, because when he was with the early years of WL, he pulled 225. So
right. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we had our next match, which was the title match, the first title match, Gabriela Vasconcelos versus Barbora. Barbora? I'm not going to try and say it last name.
Now we're going to start getting serious here, okay?
All right, here we go. Get that soapbox. Get the cowboy hat ready, everybody.
Oh, God. So here it is. I love my girl, Gabby, to death, but I have to say, Barbora is the reason why Gabby doesn't have her title no more. Because when they pulled the first time, it was just like, wow, it was like, holy crap, who is this person? So now she's had, what, a year and a half off, 2 years since she pulled Barbora last. And, I picked Barbora, but I wanted Gabby to win. And it was like, the reason why I picked Barbora, because I was saying to myself, okay, Gabby, what's going to be different this time around? Like what game plan are you going to have to make sure it's different? And honestly, if you guys saw the first one, this match looked like the exact same one at East versus West. The exact same one. Like Gabby was forward the first 2 matches, and it looked like okay, and then she just ran out of steam. So
yeah,
I don't know, like what was And like I said, when we comment, guys, I want you guys to understand, when Matt and I analyze things, we're not picking on the people. We're not saying anything that y'all saw the same thing we saw, right? So it just seems like she just ran out of steam.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly correct. Forgot the first 2 rounds and then lost the next 4 in a row. Super powerful in those first 2. I mean, the first pin, Barbora got the start. She was a third of the way towards her own pin side, where Gabby overpowered her completely, just got the stop and turned it in her own direction and drove straight through for the pin. And it's like, oh wow, Gabby's like way stronger here. But that strength dissipated after the second round, and then Barbora was able to capitalize on that and get through and get 4 victories in a row.
So this is exactly how she lost her title to Barbora. So I'm thinking, okay, you can only hit so many times side pressure, and then like, okay, if that ain't working, then what? Because remember, you're up 2-0. When you lost the next two and it's 2-2, okay, something got to change.
Yes,
Whatever that is, something got to change.
Yeah, and what can you change when the problem is fatigue? It's fatigue will make the cowards out of the strongest men, and it's one of those things. It's like if you're gassed and you know how to win, but you can't do it. So what do you do? It's like, yeah, I know I've got to do that. I just can't do it. My arm won't. It's blown up. Like I'm exhausted. I can't get my breath. It's like you might know exactly the way forwards in terms of the adjustments you need to make and the techniques you need to employ. But if you don't have the muscular endurance to be able to implement that, it's like you could know everything you got to do and just not be able to do it.
I think, and now because now that that's all said and done, Gabby's pulling next week. She's pulling like 38 days, whatever. She's pulling Heidi Cordner at knuckles up. So I'm thinking, is that enough time to recuperate? Is that, because now you go from one. I don't think Heidi is as strong as Balboa, but she has the height too. So it's like, okay, you're going to pull someone just like from a height standpoint, long lever in Balboa when you pull Heidi Cordner, but Heidi doesn't possess the power that Balboa, so she may bounce back.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And I guess it depends on the length of the match. I mean, first to 4 pins, if you're somebody that's very explosive and you use a lot of energy and a lot of power to win your match, you'll look phenomenal in those early rounds. But then once that starts to dissipate a little bit, it's like, oh no, you start to look human. And then all of a sudden, if they get a stop, and then you might get a pin still, or you might be up 3-0, but you've spent everything you've got to get that 3-0, and now it's going to be okay. Let the other opponent's going to start taking over here, and they're just going to make you work. They know that you're fatigued. They can feel it in your hand. It's like, oh, let me just no, I think I've got you here. No, give it everything. Give me everything you got.
Right.
It's a good feeling, actually. I'm sure you've experienced this when you've had a super match or some sort of match where you feel that fatigue come into the other person, and what felt impossible 2 minutes ago is now not even existent. And it's like, oh, I see. I can do whatever I want here.
Well, just like we said, just when we think we have the answer, there's more questions. So now, who do you put next for Balboa? Who do you put?
It's tough. She's almost the Levan of the women's division.
Do we wait for WAP Worlds to come and go before we have somebody? Because she's beaten everybody. Gabby twice. She's beaten Egla. I mean, who is there?
Yeah, it's a difficult position. Being that dominant, it makes
things like what 24 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're so young, and being that dominant, and it's sort of like, well, who do we put against you? Maybe we start doing crazy matches or ridiculous matches where it's like you got 2 opponents you got to beat or something. I'm not saying that they should do that, but I'm just saying like it feels like that's the level of competition that you've got to throw at somebody to be able to get them to actually have a decent match. Although this was a very good showing for Barbora, because losing those first 2 rounds and then having to come back and get the victories, it did show that she is vulnerable and she can be beaten, as opposed to where we see where Levan is at this point, who essentially hasn't lost. I know that they gave 2 rounds against him with the Hermes match because he couldn't continue, but he has looked like an unstoppable powerhouse since he first sort of walked onto the
Right.
pay-per-view scene. And it's like, well, who do you put against this guy?
Well, it's as far as Barbora goes, I say in about 6 to 8 months we may have somebody.
Oh yeah, is it Jocelyn?
Yeah. I say give 6 to 8 months, and she might be able to do it. I'm sure she'll probably have to pull somebody first, but she might be in the mix.
I think Aaron has the same thoughts that we do. Is she Canadian?
Out of Ontario, yeah.
There you go. She already beat Sarah this year. Yeah, that's it. Well, as the sport progresses and more people get involved in it, and especially from the women's side, that's where you'll start to see, the level continue to rise. And somebody that looks as dominant as Barbora, maybe in a couple of years' time, there's another superstar that is on the rise and can take her down. And that could be the story, is the unstoppable champion, and then the rising superstar, and maybe that rising superstar can get the victory and become the new hottest thing. But for this point in time, it does feel like Barbora is unbeatable for at least the next year or two.
Yeah, and Neil Pickup says he's training a woman who's 6'5", but they're like they're a ways away. But yeah, I mean 6'5", good Lord. Woo!
Yeah. Well, that's taller than me.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, we got two matches left, right? The co-main events.
Yes, that's right. Let's not talk about them. No one wants to hear about them. So, well, thanks for watching, everyone. And no.
See you next week.
Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall. What do we think?
First of all, we won't see you next week. It's Christmas, so probably not.
Oh yeah, not for me though.
Yeah, not for you, right? Yeah, there's Ashley from New Zealand, but again, it seemed like every match she gets canceled. But we'll have to see. But Eddie Hall, Brian Shaw, probably the most exciting match on the entire card, don't you think?
Yep.
There were so many moving parts to this, right? And this goes back to what we talked about last week when you have Devin training Brian Shaw and you have Neil Pickup training Eddie Hall. I'm thinking, okay, two different learning styles, two different teaching styles. And I thought the cornermen were going to be a big part of this match. I picked Brian Shaw because I thought it was going to be a point where, what they train and what they retain might just say, fuck it, I'm just going to use my strong and my body girth and beat Eddie Hall. That's what I thought was going to happen. But for all intents and purposes, you got to give it up to Eddie. I mean, he hung in there and he made it, hey, he made it more. I mean, aside calling, Brian a bitch, I don't know how many times, but, but he was trying to get in his head. And I think it was starting to get to him because then all of a sudden you didn't see the smile anymore. You start to see the seriousness of Brian Shaw, but I think even Neil, who was on our show as a guest, chimed in and he said, we trained all the time. Like, dude, Eddie, let go. Quit. I mean, when you're a strong man, you like to grip stuff. That's just your normal nature, right? So in this arm wrestling, you don't have to always grip as hard. You don't have to. You can, but you don't have to always do that. So when you're like that, slip out of that and get to the strap. Because it seemed like that's where Shaw was kind of, had the losing battle, But then when you hold on and then Brian was able to get a hold of that, then try to bring it back to his way, then, okay, there you go. Now you lost. But no, it was exciting. And I think what made it exciting is because obviously we got two mega athletes from a different sport coming to our sport. And the fact that we were kind of all in, like going, okay, what's going to happen? We all know they're amateurs. We get that. But I thought those guys did a lot better than Larry Wheels, when he first got into the scene. The one match that, Juji Mufu had on WAL, I thought these guys did better. And it wasn't just like a gimmick match. I thought these guys actually did some stuff, and I hope they stay in it. I know Eddie's got some other stuff he has on the horizon he wants to get done with quick, but that was better than what I anticipated.
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely correct. It definitely felt like we were watching arm wrestling as opposed to a sideshow. It was like these guys are doing the correct things. They're, not only is there some bad blood trash talking coming from Eddie's way, making it exciting, but it did look like both guys had a game plan and they were trying to implement it. And the don't be a bitch thing from Eddie about trying to get Brian to hold on to him, that it was like, his own worst enemy doing that, because I think every time that he was in a position where he could have slipped, or both guys could have slipped quite comfortably, Eddie's like, no, don't be a bitch, don't let go, don't be a bitch, and then he'd get pinned himself, and it was like, well, Eddie, you should have let go yourself there.
Well, yeah, I mean, and even you could tell the magnitude of this match, where Eddie was really trying to get inside the head, because it was like, come on, Brian, you're gonna beat me. Just go ahead and pull. You're gonna beat me anyway, And then all of a sudden, when Eddie Hall got pinned, he was going through the, Brian was psyched out. Yeah, good job. Hey guys, yes, come on, USA. I mean, he was trying everything possible to get in that guy's head. He almost succeeded, But at the end of the day, it was just like, okay, F you. I'm just gonna go ahead and use my frame. I'm just gonna beat you like that. Fuck it, Yeah. But again, you saw what it was. I hope these guys stay intact, because it's going to, do anything but boost our, our sport.
Yeah, I'd love to see the numbers on, the pay-per-view, and how well it translated, having two big guys from a different sport, known for World's Strongest Man, known for their YouTube, and doing just crazy strength stuff. And then it's like, okay, they're on an arm wrestling table against each other, but it's pay-per-view. If you want to watch it, you've got to buy it, and it's $20 or something, or whatever it was. How many people are big enough fans of either guy that would have said, okay, I care enough about these guys and that I want to watch them arm wrestle each other. I'd love to see, was that experiment worth it for Core Sports to put these guys on there?
I think, did they start releasing matches already? I think they were the first match to be released.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine. I haven't looked yet, but I'd be kind of curious how many views he has already. So
let me look it up right now, because I saw it earlier today. Brian, not Brain. Brain Shaw. Okay, here we go. So Brian has uploaded it to his own channel. That's got 210,000 views. It was 9 hours ago that he put it up. So 210,000 views. Eddie Hall has put it on his channel as well, and he did it at the same time 9 hours ago, and he has 100,000 views. And East versus West Arm Wrestling has it on their channel. They must have all released it at the same time, because they're all 9 hours ago, and 135,000 views for East versus West. So in total, we've got 210 from Brian, 100 from Eddie. That's 310, and then 130. So 440,000 views in 9 hours.
There you go. That's what's going to get our sport on the mainland. Or on the mainstream. I'm telling you, that right there. That's awesome.
That's big. That is a big result. 440,000 views for sure. And that's only 9 hours.
Can you imagine if Larry Wills didn't walk away from the sport?
Well, I thought that the perfect opponent for Brian, the first opponent, would have been Larry. That was before Eddie put his hand up. But I knew, and I had said this many times, because there was so much speculation as to who his first opponent would be. And I said, it's not going to be an arm wrestler. Like, they're not going to put him against somebody who's elite in arm wrestling, because you've got somebody who's very special coming in from this sport that has a massive following, and he's like a celebrity in a way. You're not going to put him against somebody that nobody else knows who it is. Like, the mainstream audience doesn't know that Denis Saplenkov is a bloody legendary arm wrestler. Like, and they're not going to care. That they're going to be like, who is it? He can't even say his name. Or even if it was John Brazing, it's like, I'd never heard of this guy. And especially if that person beats Brian Shaw, it's like going to be even worse. It's like, some guy I've never heard of beat him.
Right.
So it was always going to be another person with a big name. And I thought it was going to be Larry. I thought that was probably my pick. It would have been Larry before he sort of said, hey, I'm stepping away for a while.
Right.
But yeah, great first match with Eddie Hall, even though he only trained, what was it, 5 weeks or something?
I think it was like 6 weeks, maybe more than that. But I think if you look on Neil's pickups, Arm Wars, if you remember, he did a tutorial each week with Eddie. It was pretty cool the way he did that. I mean, that's for all arm wrestlers. I mean, he broke everything down to a science, and that was pretty badass.
Yeah, for sure. That's right. Yeah, but a great match overall. Really good full sport. The only thing I didn't really like was the, I think it was after the third round or the fourth round or something like that, where Eddie was saying "F you" to Brian over and over and over, and it was like, oh man, you just kind of made this so many sponsors and everyone that may have been interested just went, oh, no, we can't get involved in that now. You know, it's one of those things with a lot of mainstream companies with big money to spend on athletes or into certain sports. They don't go for that sort of behavior, and they will steer very clear of that because they need their product or their, you know, whatever it is that they're selling to be family friendly, or they need to maintain a certain image. And, you know, if they're seen to be involved with behavior like that, it's like, oh, that's going to really tarnish our reputation. We can't, you know. So a big mistake, I think, from Eddie doing that. Although, I mean, it was great to watch. It was funny, it was fun, and it was entertaining from our perspective. It does actually hurt the mainstream potential of arm wrestling.
Yep, I agree.
There's only one more match. What could it be? I've forgotten who it was. I have no idea. I just slipped my mind. It was some guy, big guy, I think.
You know, I think Levan doesn't get the credit he deserves for being a technical wrestler. His table IQ. He came in with a game plan. Like, the minute they gripped up, I was like, oh shit. Because he gripped Jerry low, right? So when you try to grip high with Jerry, you know, it ends up being like this, right? But one, Levan has an enormous big paw hand, and two, he gripped him low enough so when Jerry flopped, it went right into his arm and just rolled him right over. And I'm like, holy shit, I'll be damned, you know? But again, one of these matches where it's like going, make an adjustment. Now, I don't know if Larry or if Jerry could have slipped out of that though either, you know?
No, that's right. Yeah, well, he was so low on his grip. I'm just going to bring it up here. So, I mean, how are you going to get out of that? You'd have to go under, or you're going to have to, like, basically on that very first go, you got to let go and pull your hands completely straight backwards, because he is covered. Like, that wrist is completely covered. Even if he lets go of pressure at all with his fingers to try to slip, Levan is right around it. He's going to let go, and Levan's just going to pin his wrist. So, yeah, very difficult position for Jerry to try to get into his strongest point, which is to get that shoulder behind and get that wrist flopped. He couldn't really flop his wrist. He was flopping underneath. It was by the time he would get into a position like this, he was already palm up and being hit towards the pin pad.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing I said last week on the show, Matt. The difference when you had Hermes, when he went to a flop, what made him sweat, Levan sweats, because his started from a back low position, then he transitioned to a flop. Where he went like that, it kind of had Levan like this, then he went flop and made Levan, you know, kind of sweat for a second. Or if you look at Jerry, look at his setup, he's all weight frontwards, right? So he's just going to come in here. There's no back pressure whatsoever. So it made it that much easier for him to roll over him like that. You know what I mean? And again, yeah, we're playing, you know, armchair quarterback. Damn, I mean, like, you know, could you at least, with all those superstars in his corner, Michael Todd, Devin Laird, with all those superstars in his corner, do you think someone should have said, load back and just slip out of that? Just to see what would happen. Now, would it made a difference? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But just to see what could happen in the strap. Just to see.
Yeah. Yeah. But it was over so fast. The whole match was done in 10 minutes. 4 rounds.
You know? how does his match lead 10 minutes and the one Devin had lasted 40 or something like that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall went 52 minutes.
Yeah. And I was just like going, and I was just like, and then the last match he loses on elbow fouls. I'm like, fuck. It's just like, oh, this is just not good. It was like, and again, it doesn't mean Jerry's a bum, not by any stretch of the imagination. It just means that, okay, you know what? I gave him my shot. Jerry, don't feel bad because everybody has fallen in Levan. Everybody has. And I made a post today. I don't know if anybody saw it, but the more Levan wins, the more views that video gets when the last time he got pinned and Sabin Badalescu got him at WAF Worlds. Now, granted, that was an old Levan. It's not the new and improved Levan. But to see him get pinned, because it seems like it's a myth. Oh, Levan got pinned before. Really? When was this? It's like a myth, like an old wives' tale. But it did happen. But, so now all of a sudden, here's the age-old question again. But we know who's gonna face that. It's the winner of Hermes and Michael Todd. Now, we've seen Hermes and Levan before. And so, because it's still kind of fresh in our memories, we never saw Michael versus Levan. So I think I think a lot of people want to see Michael win, because now it's like this new and improved Michael after surgery, he may have something because he has that, that unique style. But again, sometimes Michael can be one-dimensional. But his one-dimensional goes back, not this way. Yeah. It goes back. He can get closer here this way, not so much that way. He'll get there, but he can go a little bit closer if he needs to. So I'm sure Michael's not thinking about that right now. He's thinking about, I got to beat Hermes first, then we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So again, Hermes and Michael will be the second half of the semifinals that'll meet like this, and I don't know when that match will happen, but yeah, so.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll just quickly answer this question before we jump into it again. But Nolan Berger says, is it Italia's Buzz still, or is it Buzz the Connolly show? I'm here for both. It is always going to be Paul's show. He is just taking a break at this point in time, so I'm just holding the fort while he's away, but he will be back at some point. But yeah, it's one of those things when you've got such a dominant champion in Levan, you're at the point, I think, now where we're just sort of throwing specialists at him and seeing, it's like, okay, well, how do you deal with Jerry's flop press? It's like, well, here's a perfect example of that, and Levan has shown you how to do it. It's like, well, how do you deal with Michael Todd's open top roll, King's move? And maybe we'll get to see that if Michael is able to get through Hermes. But it's almost like fundamentally Levan is just unbeatable in terms of, like, he's the best. He seems to be the best fundamental arm wrestler that is going around, and it's only some sort of wild, crazy technique that will have any sort of chance against him. I mean, we saw that with Devin getting that stop in that King's move position the first round of their rematch, and he held, he adjusted, didn't panic, made the adjustment he needed to do, and came forwards with the flop. With a press. And
it was a flop press, and it was like, oh shit, because now when he did that, it was like, I think Devin put all his eggs in that one basket in that one round, and when I got you, and Levan's like, oh yeah, watch this. And like that, I was like, oh damn.
Yes, well, that's exactly your point of having the ability to do different techniques at an extremely elite level. Because if you're all in on one thing, like your flop press with Jerry, you're all in on that, and somebody figures out how to counter it, what do? You haven't got any other options. You haven't got a top roll to go to. You haven't got overhand.
If you look at Jerry's face in between rounds, he looked lost. Like, I don't know what to do anymore. Like that's the look he gave. I'm not saying he was thinking that, but that's just the vibe I got from his facial reaction. Like, fuck, what do I do now? That's the, after he went down 2-0. That was the, like, shit, this guy's for real. Like, yeah, he is. He's the real deal.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's right. And yeah, what do you do if you've game planned and you've trained and done everything you can to get into your flop rest position, and all of your thought has been how you're going to get there, how that setup's going to work for you, and you're imagining it over and over and over, and you've been training all of those muscles and all those movements to get there. And on the day you line up and he grips you low and he's sitting there and you're like, oh, this isn't good. And you go to push forward and you get pinned and you're like, all right, let me try it again the second round, and you get pinned and it's like, I don't know what to do now.
And maybe because, Hermes found a way to get through that press. Travis at Wall found a way to get through that press. So, maybe Levan took some notes, because Levan doesn't put a lot of training stuff up. Not a lot of elites don't either, but he was studying. So kudos to Levan for having a good game plan, his camp, and man, the state of Georgia, they brought their fans over. I mean, I have to admit, I saw them in the crowd with the Georgian flags. I have to admit, kudos to them.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess everyone in the sport of arm wrestling is going to know who Levan Saginashvili is. And if he's in America for a match, it's like, oh, I want to go check that out. I hope they had a sellout crowd. I'm not sure the numbers there.
Right.
But you would hope that the in-person crowd was, very, very hyped up and part of the event and excited to go and see it and support it, because the gate numbers are just as critical as pay-per-view. If you can sell out a room, sell out a function area, sell out an arena, that's where you can make a lot of your profit. So the people who get up and go to the event are so critical to its success. And obviously, if you can't make it there in person, then you've always got the pay-per-view option, and
right.
that is obviously another avenue of revenue for the company or the promotion. Is that hopefully people from around the world will purchase this, and so but it can be tricky to get people to come along to something that they're sort of half interested. But when you've got the one guy in the world facing the number two, it's like, okay, everyone who's a fan of arm wrestling is going to do what they can to get there in person to see it.
Yeah, I think it's either the next King of the Table or the next East vs. West after February is going to be in Georgia, I heard. So that'll be interesting. Like, oh, okay, here we go. Now it's really going to now you're going to have all the Georgias off the fucking hook. You're going to have Gennady on there, Arackley, and Rivas. Where are you going to be off the hook then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think King of the Table really needed this to come back from their last event. The last event really fell over. It was I felt like I'd wasted my money buying it. It was not a good event. I think they had come out and promised that they were going to make it up to everybody. Maybe this was their version of trying to make it up for everyone by having some big names on the card, having Levan on the card, but it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense for me, and I think a lot of other people, that there is two different promotions with almost the same athletes on there. With East versus West, and then you've got King of the Table as well. And I guess King of the Table's point of difference is that they have a bit more freak show, sideshow matches or whatever. People with who may have never been given a shot on the arm wrestling stage because of their ability, but they have a big following. So it's like, all right, we won't put them on East versus West because they're not technically an elite arm wrestler. So we'll throw them on King of the Table. And it feels like that.
Well, yeah, because you had started with Larry Wills, then it went to Khaled. Remember him? Then now it's Eddie Hall. Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall. So yeah, I think they're more. Hey, we'll give them opportunity. That's only if you can bring, what do you bring to the table type deal. So, yeah, I mean, they're more likely to do that kind of stuff. But, hey,
What do you think the future is for their promotion? Do you think they're going to keep doing that sort of matchup?
You mean as far as getting people from a different sport to come to ours?
Yeah.
I think if they're going to do that, it'll be those guys. I don't foresee East versus West doing that. That's just my opinion. The thing is, Matt, though, you want these organizations be your own person. when you start bleeding over and trying to be like everybody else, then you kind of lose some of that juice. You know what I mean? Like who you are. Like, we'll take Knuckles Up, for example. Anytime you see purple, you know who they are. That's Knuckles Up. Anytime you see Armed Gods, you know who they are. That's Red. You know who they are, right? If they stick to that script, their own script, and not try to be like everybody else, that's where you start losing people. You know what I mean? I'm just being real. Like you hit the nail on the head when you said, yeah, they're kind of one and the same, but they're using the same. They're just recycling the same guys over the cross promoting because, you know, this was the first time Jerry's been on a King of the Table, if I'm not mistaken. So
Right.
that's new territory for him, you know. And before it was like Levan was always King of the Table. Then he finally crossed over and migrated to East versus West, you know. So I get that, but with all these other organizations, stay put. That'd be like having Knuckles Up, where based out of New Jersey, all of a sudden, we're going to hold an event in Seattle. Why? Yeah, I mean, everybody in the Northwest would be like, oh, sweet. But it's like going, you are who you are. Don't change anything. You know, quit trying to keep up with the Joneses. You got your format, stick to it, make it special. You know, that's why people go to the Michigan State championships, because they want that big giant gorilla statue. That's what they hand out for first through third. Everybody wants those. Stay who you are. Stay true to who you are. You know, that's what you're known for. You know, so just keep it there. You know, like I said, you start. And here's the thing with one thing about Knuckles Up, I guess they have their guys, but at the same time, they're going to get other pullers that necessarily don't end up on East vs. West or King of Table either. That's cool, you know.
Yeah, that's right. It is important, and to brand your company and brand your event and make people have ideas or colors or certain things which are synonymous with your brand and your promotion and your company. And as you said, purple for Knuckles Up. If you see Levan, you're going to be thinking it's going to be East versus West, which is where it does tend to get a little confusing for people, because I think they treat both King of the Table and East versus West as one and the same a lot of the time, because it's, a lot of the guys do compete on both organizations. And then it's like, oh, did you see that match with Levan and Jerry? And they're like, oh yeah, the East versus West thing. And it's like, no, it was King of the Table. They're like, what's the difference? Like,
Well, at one point, it was almost like you had Jerry was the super heavyweight guy in East versus West. Levan was the super heavyweight guy in King of the Table. It's like, oh, they're going to meet. But they kind of started doing this. And it's like, oh, okay. So, but, be it as it may, I still think, the Brian Shaw, Eddie Hall match kind of stole the show and kind of saved the show at the same time. So,
yeah, that's right. Exactly. Where was it? There was a question here, which I think. So Captain Marsh says, what does second get? I also thought that Jody said the same thing, but I realized he didn't. So I think you said first through third gets the Gorilla Trophy.
Yes.
I heard as first and third, and I was like, why does second place get a Gorilla Trophy?
First through third. I should have said first, second, and third. Sorry. So yeah, first, second, and third.
Oh, that's why I just thought it was like, I realized what you meant, but I thought it was funny. It was like, oh, first and third gets, why does second place get screwed out of a Gorilla Trophy? What do they get? A slap in the face? Like,
that would be cool to have and put on one of my mantles back here. That'd be kind of awesome. So
there's just a few trophies in the background there. I don't think there's much room left. You've stacked. I can't see a single
the trophies
shelf.
are there, and trophies and plaques. The medals are in a big bin right here. So yeah,
fantastic. I have a heavyweight trophy, like for winning the heavyweight division. It's not my trophy though. Somebody left it behind after one of the tournaments.
Ooh, come on now. You got to have that, because sometimes that trophy describes you, like that Thanos glove that they got now, or that hammer. It defines you. So can't be leaving that behind, So
That's right. That's right. And I couldn't figure out who it was either because I think Mario Tambakis was the winner of that division. And I said, Mario, you've left your trophy here. And he goes, no, I've got mine. And he had one. And I was like, whose is this trophy? So,
Well, you know what? That just means one thing. It's going to be interim trophy now. So, for it, so.
Yeah.
But my man, my wife is home now. I'm about to go get a bite to eat for dinner. So, want to say, hey, thanks again for letting me be a guest on the show. I know the chat and you guys are missing Paul. He'll be back soon enough. But so far, Matt's been doing a great job of carrying this thing. And I will not see you. It's Christmas over here, so I will not see you. But hell, the week after, New Year's Day, we'll kick things off. What do you think?
Sounds good, mate. Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
All right, everybody. Hey, Matt, thank you again. Appreciate that, man. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, mate. Have a good night.
Take care.
All right. There we go. Jody Williams, Chocolate Thunder. What a legend. What a wonderful guy. Great speaker and gives his thoughts very convincingly, very succinctly. I think he's an excellent guest, and it was great he actually reached out to me this week and said, hey, we doing a show? I'm like, yes, because I had messaged a bunch of people and they haven't got back to me yet, but that's okay. We'll try to get them on next week or the week after or whatever. Or I might adjust the day because it's Christmas Day. For me, we're one day ahead of you. Right now, it's 3:00 in the afternoon on Thursday. So I think it's Wednesday night there. So next Wednesday is Christmas. But for me, my Christmas will be your Tuesday in America. We've got some comments here. Great to have everyone in the chat. Always good to have you guys in here. I love the fact that you guys write stuff, and we can't always answer all the comments, but we do try to get questions that are related to what we're talking to spoken. Sylvester Stallone's not happy with the audio. I'm not sure if you're referring to my audio but let me see if my settings are all good. Check my audio levels. My audio levels seem to be okay. I'm not sure what you're having difficulties with there, but we've got a question here from Legend of Nelda Tears of the Incel. Does Paul Italia not get involved with arm wrestling anymore? He is taking a break at this point in time. He has started a new business, a junk removal business called Forget About It. And he is putting all of his time and effort into that. He doesn't have the time to focus on arm wrestling at this point. So he will be back at some point, but he just wants to get everything up and running with his new business. He is running a YouTube channel, Forget About It, Junk Removal, and he's putting lots of updates and videos and stuff on there. Drew says it sounds fine to him. Maybe it's your setup, Sylvester, because I'm getting green bars across my screen, but it may be okay. Sylvester Stallone. This is a conversation between these guys. I like him, but dude, start winning. I am on his team. Audio's fine, says Ligali. So it is you, Sylvester. Fix your damn audio, Sylvester. What was your guys' thoughts on the main event, Jerry and Levan, and what happens from here? What do we see for Jerry? Obviously, Levan's next match has already been set. He's going to get the winner of Hermes and Michael Todd, but I was going to get my junk removed, but forget about it. Yeah, that's the reason of the name. I love the name. I think it's very clever. Is Bowen still involved in AWE? Absolutely, he is, 100%. We were talking earlier today about our next thing that we are planning, which I believe will be in March. And yes, we'll have news of our next event when we've got things settled. And I never want to put things out there while it's still rumor, because you say this is going to happen and everyone jumps on that, and then that doesn't happen, and then everyone thinks that you're a liar. So no, I have to wait for things to be set. We've got here Nolan Berger says, thoughts on Dave's next opponent, Matt? Farid Osmanli. Oh, that's a difficult one. Farid, who do you want to see, Matt? It is difficult because Dave is almost becoming a little bit of a gatekeeper or a journeyman at this point. He's holding out the people that want to get into the elite level, but when he's having matches against others at the elite level, he's getting beaten. So he has had some amazing matches in his arm wrestling career. And he does have the ability in those, especially in those early rounds, the first round and the second round, to beat and be competitive with nearly anybody in the world. He just has that gas tank issue where after that second round, it really seems like his strength level just drops off. But we'll see where he goes. I think he had stepped away for a little while. I think he was dealing with some injuries, as Jody Williams alluded to, that he had stem cell therapy in two places, and one was his neck. Apparently that didn't help, but so he may be dealing with a lot of injuries. And this is one of those sports where, you know, it is so rife with niggling injuries. You know, your hand, wrist, elbow, shoulder, back, neck are all under enormous pressure. The tendons, the ligaments, and if you're doing that for years and years and years, and then those things may break, and then you're hoping for them to come back and heal, and it's just, there's always a lot of issues that can happen with this sport. And it's probably the same with any physical sport where you're going against another person and trying to use your physicality to overpower them in some manner. Levan's stock didn't rise, in my opinion. He just did the correct things. I would agree with that. He is still the unstoppable, unbeatable champion, and it wasn't that getting a dominant victory over Jerry made any impact on that. It just sort of, I think, was in a lot of people's minds was a bit of a letdown, because it was like, okay, we've got this specialist in Jerry Cadorette, and he's a flop wrist presser. You know, he's in fine form. He's been training really hard. He's looking in fit and in shape. He's going against the number one in the world, who, you know, technically has never been beaten or been pinned. We did see the 2 pins given against him for not being able to continue in the match with Hermes, but reality is, when he's put his elbow on the table, he's never lost. So him to go against Jerry Cadorette and just be completely dominant and get a 4-0 victory in less than 10 minutes. Yeah. What do you say? He just like, well, yes, Levan is the man. He just continues to be that. And I think one of the worst things could happen promotional wise is if he gets the opponent, either Hermes or Michael, and just does the exact same thing and just floors them. And it's like, oh, well, okay, well, who do we have left to put against Levan? Because if nobody can be competitive with him at any level, who do you match him up against? It's always going to be a squash match until somebody comes forwards with, you know, some new ridiculous level of strength and they're just crushing everyone. It's going to be difficult to sell a Levan match and say that it's going to be competitive, especially if he wins this next one against the winner of Hermes and Michael, because whoever comes out of that, I mean, especially if it's Michael Todd with, you know, his very unique open top roll King's move position, if Levan can just crush through that, like 4-0, walk away 10 minutes, like, is that the best you got? Number 2 guy in the world? That's it. Like, who else is there? It's like, well, we haven't got anybody else. How do you match up somebody against a monster like that? It's like, it's just going to be a squash match. People aren't going to be wanting to pay to see that. They'll be like, yeah, he's just going to win. You know, when you know the outcome of a match, there's no interest in it. It's like, yeah, it's like watching any sport. You know, if you put the UFC on and you're about to start watching the fight, and I tell you who wins the fight because I've already seen it. He goes, yeah, he wins the first 45 seconds with the armbar submission, takes him down, gets the armbar, 45 seconds. It's like, are you still going to watch it? I don't know. You probably, maybe if it was 5 rounds and a decision, it's like, yeah, it's a 5-round boring decision. You're like, okay. It's like, yeah, maybe I won't put my time in to watch that. Whereas if you don't know who's going to win, that's when it could be exciting. When you've got a 50-50 coin flip match, it's like, oh, this is exciting because I can't pick a winner. And that's the ideal match that you want going in, because people are going to be interested in that. It's like, who's going to win? I don't know. Either of them could win. It's like, oh, that's intriguing. Whereas if you just go, oh, this guy's just going to absolutely smash him, it's going to be, I don't even know why they put this match together. It's pointless. That's sort of the feeling that I have with Levan at this point, especially if he wins this next match dominantly. Nolan Berger says, oops, I missed that one. Nolan Berger says, maybe try and get Pablo or Derek, somebody at that level in there also, or the Iranian that Derek Smith faced. Is this for Levan or is this for Dave Chafee? Lagia says, I think the size of Levan's hand and his radial deviation will easily eat up Michael's top roll, but it would still be nice to see it. You technically never know. Home Gym Physique disagrees with that. He says Michael Todd stands no chance against Levan. Sorry, Monster fans. Well, I think that it'd be nice to get the question answered. Nice to get the question answered. And just saying, like, well, how does Levan go against Michael's top roll? I'd love to see it. I would like to see it. That's why I'm hoping that Michael gets the win so I can get that question answered. If he completely dominates Michael's top roll, it's like, well, King's move. It's like, okay, well, there we go. Question's been answered. But there is that potential that maybe he can't handle that. You know, there is still, that's probably the only point of contention for Levan at this point, to say, can he handle a King's move by a specialist King's mover? And, you know, Michael Todd is that man. And a few years back, maybe 4 years ago, when Michael was the king of the world and he had that open arm top roll King's move position locked in, especially with the longer pads in WAL. And it was like, oh, what is this new thing that he's doing? And then everyone wanted to ban it. And, you know, because he was so dominant with it. And he has struggled in recent years. I think he had some injuries and he had some other issues. And obviously the shorter pads meant that he couldn't drag back as far to get into those positions. But now that he's come and made the adjustments and he's got a bunch of wins under his belt, he's looking in fine form. He's going against Hermes Gasparini, who is an excellent arm wrestler, who has a very good, he probably pushed Levan to his limit, as in the closest match Levan has ever been in, where it wasn't just a complete whitewash. Hermes was able to make Levan work so hard that he couldn't continue in the match after he got 4 pins. It was on an oxygen bottle. So that is also a good test for Levan to have that rematch with Hermes. So it is definitely a good matchup to take on the winner of Michael Todd and Hermes Gasparini. And I hope both guys are, well, I would be happy for either one of them to win. I think for me personally, I'm more interested in seeing how Levan would handle Michael's King's move as I am just seeing a rematch against Hermes. But I think both matches make sense and both would be interesting. I'd almost feel like, regardless as to who wins that match, I'd almost feel like, okay, you get the first shot and then whoever loses, they get the next shot. Because I think both matches make sense. But after that, I don't see anybody in the super heavyweight division that is like, oh, yes, I definitely want to see them go up against Levan. It's just like, it feels pointless. It feels like, I don't know why you would put that person against Levan. They're just going to get destroyed. So, yeah, Hermes and Michael are probably the only guys that I want to still see take him on. And mainly from Michael's point of view, just from the interesting aspect as to how does Levan handle a King's move? And then the other aspect of, was Hermes' first match an indication of a way that he could potentially beat Levan? And so we'll see what happens. But it depends on which organization they run it on as well. Because if they run it on King of the Table, or if they run it on East versus West, are they going to do the 6-round regardless matches? Or are they going to do just first to 4? We'll have to wait and see. But 4 rounds is a long time if you start getting pushed and you're a super heavyweight. Let me see some of the comments here. Baxter's rich enough to make it happen. Gorilla match. Oh, I got Devin beating a gorilla at arm wrestling. It depends on whether the gorilla knows what he's doing. The gorilla's going to be stronger, but he doesn't know what he's doing. Sad reality is, if Hermes beats the monster, it will be a long time before Michael gets his shot against Levan, given he only competes once or twice a year. That is correct, absolutely. Definitely agree with that. What is this here? Are you Mick W to be sad about it? Mike, are you Mike to be sad about it? I don't know what that means, Captain. Drew says, but remember, Levan was sick versus Hermes. Lagia says he wasn't sick against Hermes. He was sick against Devin in their first match. Oh, Drew, were you incorrect there? Home Gym Physique says, I've never been a fan of the King's move. Even though it's legal, it's a complete and utter cop-out move that shows how weak you are at traditional arm wrestling. Plus, it looks ugly as hell. Well, Home Gym Physique, let us know how you really feel. I like the King's move because it is something completely different. It is within the rule set, and I was never for banning it. I was always of the opinion, just give it time and people will figure out how to counter against it, because it's not an unbeatable move. It's popular at this point in time, especially when Michael Todd was using it in all of his matches to win matches. But it's not an unbeatable move, and he was really the only person that was doing it successfully. Devin started to learn it and started to get involved in doing it, and now he uses it effectively as well. But it just feels like when you see something and you just instantly ban it, you're robbing people of the ability to learn how to counter it. And it's not like every single person out there now only King's moves because it's the ultimate move. It's a difficult move to pull off. It requires a certain genetic frame or a certain ability to get into those positions and get strong in those positions. So if somebody is going to sit in a King's move, they would have had to really learn how to do that and do it effectively. And so if you're going against people who are King's moving and you're losing, you need to find somebody who does King's move and train with them and learn how to combat that, because it is not an unbeatable move. And then you'll have increased your skill and your skill set and ability and your understanding of how to move on the table to combat certain things that people are doing. And you never know that maybe some of the skills that you pick up while you're learning how to combat a King's move may translate into something else in your game. And you're like, oh, that makes it so that I can, if I'm always climbing, that I should do that when I'm top rolling or whatever. It's just allows people the ability to continue to evolve the sport. And yes, it does look ugly. Yes, it does look like, hey, this person is laying on the floor with their arm completely straight. They've made adjustments to the rules. They've tried to combat it to a certain degree. Shoulder must be above the table if your arm's in a neutral or losing position. There is certain things was it the 90 degree or so, you can't have your arm like in an angle. It's got to be, what's the humerus bone? The humerus bone, trying to get my arm in the right position. Humerus bone must be at 90 degrees. If it dips beneath that, then that's illegal. So they have made adjustments for things with that move that they deem to be an unfair advantage. But I think at this point in time, it's not a move that is winning every single match out there. And it is just one of the evolutions of techniques in the sport. Captain says, okay, when you said he has no chance, I missed that. Of course he has a chance. Drew says, okay, because I thought I heard Levan say he was sick versus Hermes, or at least he was just getting over being sick, though. Lungs burnt. Why would his lungs be burnt? Gorillas know what they're doing less than me. It's not a measurable metric. Yeah, that's a good point. You can take the strength level of a gorilla and say, sure, if you could let's see if you're stronger than a gorilla based on their strength level, but you're not going to have a matching against gorilla. All the talk of Brian Shaw being the next big guy against Levan, let's be real, it's going to take years for Shaw to become a threat to experienced guys. Do you think Levan will still be around? Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. He only competes once or twice a year. I think the average is probably once a year at this point. Brian Shaw, yes. This is one of those things. The sport is nuanced. It is technical. It is strategy. It is explosiveness. It is a lot about experience and time on the table. It's not just about being ridiculously strong. Brian has the strong box ticked. That's what he's ticked coming into the sport. Now he's starting to improve in all the other areas, but it does take a long time to build up those skills, to understand where to put your hand, to understand what technique are you good at? What do you do well? What don't you do well? What does your opponents do to put you in bad positions? How do you stop that? How do you time a start? There's so many areas of arm wrestling, which is more than just being strong, which is why the match against Eddie was the perfect example or perfect first match, because both of those guys don't have those skills yet. Neither of them have the experience level to understand everything that they do to step up on the table to give themselves the best advantage and have a game plan that they know how to implement, and all those small little micro adjustments that the opponent is doing in their hand and wrist in the setup or even in the middle of a round. It's like, oh, I can see that they're bringing their shoulder forwards, or they're about to press me. I need to make the adjustment before they get into that position. If you're new, like, you're not going to realize those things are happening. So you might be really strong, but if you're just trying to use strength, it's like, there's so many other elements which prevent you from being able to win. So will Levan still be around? Well, it depends on how long it takes Brian to get to the elite level. Is he going to stick with this long enough to do that? Is he going to get a better opportunity in another sport? Because we saw that happen with Larry. I mean, he jumped into arm wrestling for a few years, and now he's lost interest in it and he's doing something else completely. I'm not sure what he's doing now, but he seems to be one of those guys that floats in and out of sports, and he does powerlifting for a little while, who do bodybuilding for a little while, do arm wrestling for a bit, and he sort of keeps changing the thing that he's currently doing or that he's currently into. I think Brian is sort of similar in a way. I mean, he's obviously coming from the world's strongest man background and having powerlifting and all of those elements of strength being his base. But after competing in the world's strongest man and winning the title, he's moved into doing more of his social media stuff with his YouTube, and he does pinch grip stuff, and he'll do like, can I lift this heaviest dumbbell sort of thing, and a lot of gimmicky kind of things which are viral on the internet. But whether arm wrestling is enough of an interest for him to say, okay, this is the thing I'm going to stick with and put time and effort in to make sure that I get really good at it, and I want to be number one in the world, and I'm willing to spend the 5-6 years or whatever to get myself into that position. Is that going to be a thing? And again, as you said here in your question, do you think Levan will still be around? I mean, what happens if Levan retires? Does that kill your motivation? Like, does it now you looking at the guys that are sitting in the number one position in the world and going, well, they just don't interest me as much? So there's a lot of factors that can go into it. Crazy G is crazy like a fox. I like Gav. Oh God, these names kill me. I like his open top roll. Okay, that's awesome. Nolan Berger, thoughts on Brian Shaw's future matches? I personally think it should be a build-up on opponents like Auden. I think he should pull bigger Loz, first Magnus Samuelsson, then maybe Wagner. Yeah, I think it's going to be what we were talking about with Jody Williams. It's not going to be another person from the arm wrestling scene. It's going to be what is the biggest money making match that I can possibly put out there, because you got to remember the promoters and Brian and his team and everybody are looking at, we need to make as much money and get as much exposure from everything that he does in public as possible to be successful financially and successful. That's going to continue to build the brand. If you're going against a person from the arm wrestling world, it's like, well, the guys in arm wrestling know who that is, but the mainstream audience that are fans of Brian Shaw, they have no idea who that is. And if you look at the 3 releases on YouTube of the match between Brian and Eddie, it's Brian Shaw's channel that has the most views by 2.5 times. He's at 250,000 views. The other 2 are at 100,000 views. So he is the driving factor of this match, not the arm wrestling promotion and not Eddie Hall. So if you're getting Brian Shaw to go against somebody, you want to put him against somebody with a big following. And in arm wrestling, I mean, who has the biggest following? I don't know. I mean, even guys like Larry Wills will probably, you could say, still have a really big following in arm wrestling over the actual elite arm wrestlers. I'm sure even Levan Saginashvili doesn't have as big a following. So, yeah, I think it's going to be another match against the person with a big name as opposed to an actual arm wrestler. Kanai's is also cool, but still nowhere as elegant. Remember Devin versus Dave? That King's Move match was ridiculous to watch. It was, I do agree. I just imagined Brzezinski and Saplenko and Levan watching that match and laughing their heads off. Yeah. I mean, that was the evolution right there. You're going to see that, though, in sports. People try new things. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it looks ridiculous. But, that's how you find innovation, and that's how you get progress. If you're too worried about how a move looks, well, and it could get you the win, then you're kind of silly for not doing it. Does it even matter? The champ title is bigger than anybody. Matters if you want to make money and if you want to get the biggest opportunities. The Drew says, I wonder if Levan will take a break from arm wrestling to pursue acting. Oh my God. And anything else in life, since no one can stop him in arm wrestling, I don't think he'll be pursuing acting, Drew. I know he was in Extraction too, but when you're the thug with a machine gun that has no dialogue, that could be anybody, really. Yeah, I don't think that's what he will be doing. And if he does do it, I don't see it working out well for him. For me, I don't mind the Aussie fella who Kings moves in the same way. I don't mind female to male trans winning boxing Olympics. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. I don't mind the Aussie fella who Kings moves in the same way. I don't mind female to male trans winning boxing. Fucking hell. The way you've written that sentence is confusing to read, right? But I get your point. You're not happy with the King's move. That's fair enough. Larry breaks another guy's arm and says, nope. Yeah. Can be devastating to experience. I've seen it twice in the last 3 months. And prior to that, I didn't see any. 6 years in the sport. Didn't see a single arm break, and then in the space of 2 weeks, I saw 2 of them. Question to Matt and everyone in the chat. Given how great that Shaw versus Eddie match was, which 2 strength athletes or legends, non-arm wrestlers, would you want to bring in for a similar match? I personally don't like when athletes from other sports go into arm wrestling or do arm wrestling only for the safety factor, like especially if they haven't been trained in the sport at all. it's just like I can't really watch it comfortably. I'm like, somebody's going to hurt themselves here. There's going to be an arm break. They don't know how to arm wrestle. They're going to, and this is especially for somebody with a big name. It's like they're going to hurt themselves. When people send me videos of kitchen table arm wrestling matches, I don't watch them. I'm like, I don't want to watch it. I don't know what happens. It's probably an arm break, and why would you send that to me? So, I almost feel the same way when it's two people who don't know how to arm wrestle, regardless as to if they're from another sport or not. If it was two people that did the training and put in the time and effort to learn how to do it properly, then I'd be down to watch something like that. We've got a suggestion that popped up. There is Shaq versus Thor. That would be fun. Again, I just want to make sure both guys take the time to learn how to do it properly first, because there would be an absolute disaster if you did. Let's say you put on Shaq versus Thor. Okay, great. Let's say Thor breaks his arm, and everyone saw it, and it gets replayed for years and years and years and years and years. And everyone's opinion of arm wrestling is, if you do it, you'll potentially break your arm, even if you're strong and have a massive arm like Thor. It's like, that's not a good thing. Yeah. I actually want Eddie more in arm wrestling than Brian, just because he moves so well. It's uncommon for someone of his background. Yeah, well, both guys were fun and entertaining to watch. He moves well. Maybe he looks like he moves well against Brian, who does look a bit uncomfortable still. Looks like he's finding it a little tricky to get his body to move in the way that he wants it to move. To me, it feels like Brian is one of those guys that slowly learns how to do things, but then the potential for him to get to the absolute elite 1% level in anything he chooses to do is always there, but it just takes time to sort of progress to that. Whereas maybe Eddie has the ability to learn things much faster, but his potential to be as elite or as good is not as great. Eddie would be good, but I doubt he will arm wrestle full time. He has too many things going on, which keeps his YouTube channel profitable. I agree. Big Loz might be ahead of Shaw, so might not be ready, says Captain. Lagia says, yeah, Eddie seems exactly like Larry. He wants to dabble in like 5 things at once. I think when you're at that level, you get a lot of different offers from different companies as to things that you may be interested in doing. It's like when Hathor Bjornsson's opponent got injured for them. I think it wasn't Eddie Hall. I think he was supposed to fight Eddie Hall in the boxing match, the one where he ended up going against Devon. So they'd reached out to Devon and they said, look, there's 6 people we've reached out to as possible replacements for this match against Thor. You're one of them. We're just gauging interest. Are you interested in taking the match? It will be in 2 weeks or whatever at this place at this time. Are you interested in doing it? So they knew that Devon has a big following. He is likely to be a good opponent in terms of, he has some sort of combat ability from being in the SAS in Canada in the army. He's obviously tall and all the rest of it. So people reach out to him and they would give him an opportunity, and whether or not he decides to take up that opportunity or not is on the person. So I'm sure that Eddie is getting offered stuff left, right, and center, and it depends on what he chooses as to the thing that he would like to do. This arm wrestling match was something that he saw as something worth his time and effort. It's like you're going against Brian Shaw. There's going to be a lot of people watching it. It's going to make you a lot of money. It's like, yes, I want to do that, as opposed to something where it's like, it's a startup organization with people you've never heard of. You're the one that's going to be bringing all the attention. It's like, well, you better be paying me a lot of money to do that, because I know there's not going to be anyone watching it. And yeah, there's a lot of things that go into choosing the right moves to make. Female to male trans and competing in males division. Laugh out loud. I'm confused. Yeah, I think he was trying to make a comparison between his hate for the King's move and his hate for seeing men go into women's divisions as well. Sure, but what's the stats on arm breaks when the refs focus on protecting men? Yeah, it's difficult though. I mean, a lot of arm breaks that I've seen, the person wasn't in a bad position. I was refereeing a match at our club when we had an arm break, and the guy was not in a bad spot. The move that he did is what caused the break, but it wasn't. So he was in a defensive position, and what he should have done is tried to squeeze closer or bring his hand closer to his shoulder and try to move with his frame. What he tried to do was just use his arm to push that way, and of course all the pressure went on the bone broke. Nothing that the referee could do in that position. He's defending, it's an active match, he's come to here, and then he's gone like that. That's his arm break. How are you supposed to stop that? So yeah, very difficult. These special matches could be set up in advance, like 6 months to a year out, in order to help possible injuries. Yeah, that's true. Except I think the longer the time frame, usually the higher risk of injury. It seems to be the way with combat sports that people tend to get injured when they know they've got that extra time, because they might push a lot harder through their training camp, thinking that, I've got 6 months, or they might get injured throughout the camp and then just try to hold on. And they're like, well, we've still got 3 months. Yes, you've broken your ankle, but that'll be in a cast for 6 weeks. We'll still have, what is that? Another 6 weeks after that. We'll try to get you good. And then they don't tell the organization that they're actually injured. And then by the time they get close enough to the event, they realize they're not going to be able to do it. And then they pull out. And so, yeah, whereas what happened with Donald Cerrone in the UFC, I mean, he was the guy that would fill in for everybody. Whenever somebody would get injured, he'd have 10 days notice, 5 days notice, 2 weeks notice. He's like, I'll take it. I'll take the match. I'll do it. And he would. And he'd go in, and most of those he won. And I think he was always training all year round and in shape. And he was just like, yeah, if there's a match, if there's a possibility of a match, I'm going to take it. I don't need 3 months. I don't need 6 months to get ready. Like, just give me 5 days. I'll be there. Like, I'll do it now. I'll do it tomorrow. I think it worked out in his favor because he didn't have to have that pressure of, a 3-month camp leading into something. Home Gym Physique says, I do think Eddie made his match entertaining as he turned into Devon. If both athletes were simple, serious like Shaw, I think the match would have been boring to watch. It does matter having personality and charisma, absolutely. And that was a lot of fun to watch. Eddie trash talking, especially him trash talking Devon. That was a good moment. I think Devon wasn't expecting that. Much respect for him for that step up. Absolutely. Train 2 big YouTube stars for a super match. The new Arm Wrestling Stars series. Yeah, well, then that's what they did with boxing. Celebrity Arm Wrestling series. Absolutely. Captain says, no, I do not hate when female to male goes into male division. Oh, okay. I thought you meant the other way around. All right. 3 months of training from 2 arm wrestling legendary coaches. You get the idea. Each month you start up another 3-month training, future match, and so on. Sure, that'd be fun. It just depends on who's going to fund it. The celebrity series would be a good idea to bring in new viewers. Behind the scenes content showing training, just like Devon and Neil Pickup did. Absolutely, I agree. Again, who's going to fund it? Captain, to spell out, I do not think there is an advantage gained. Okay. If anything, it's probably a disadvantage in that case, isn't it? Logan Paul versus somebody, yeah, maybe his brother. You would think so, but I ain't anti-trans. If I think it should be allowed, okay. You're really going on this issue, Captain. I think we get your point. Where's that UFC swear jar? Yeah. Well, That's the other sport that I watch a lot. Like, yeah, I guess. There we go. All right, guys. Well, it's 2.5 hours in. Probably go for another 2 minutes. Might answer a last couple of questions, and then we'll get going. So the Drew says, YouTube stars, we get tons of views and advertisers from it too, so it would work out for all. Not necessarily, Drew. You would hope so. That's best case scenario. It depends on the people. It depends on whether or not people are interested, whether they promote it well enough. Yeah, it's a good idea. I like it, but I don't know if it will take place that way. Josh Barker says, hey man, when's the next AWE? We're looking at March at this point, Josh. So as far as what we're doing and all the rest, we have got plans and we've already started working on them, but can't give you any details until things are definitely locked in, because yes, up until then things can change, and don't want to give information that some people might buy tickets for, or buy for plane tickets, or book accommodation, and then it's like, oh, it's actually on a different date, or it's in a different city, or whatever. So the Drew says, how about a freedom table arm wrestling event? I think it would run about the same as a normal arm wrestling event, really. I don't think it adds that much of a difference in point that people would choose to watch it over watching a normal arm wrestling event. I think you'd probably get the same people watching. But would it be interesting to see? Yeah, sure. I think it's really hard to get a pin in freedom, though, isn't it? Like, because you can just keep moving your elbow and you just keep your wrist above, you just slide all the way around the table. I don't know, those matches I've seen look a little bit silly. And there it is, the AWE Underground channel. Thank you to Drew for that. It's always appreciated. Is Devin going against Gennady again? I'm not sure what Devin's next match is, but it'd be interesting to see. He has dropped down in weight. Yeah, we'll wait and see what he does, whether or not he wants to continue doing that, or if he wants to step back into the super heavyweights again. The Drew, well, Captain says, the Drew, hell, we can't even get a tournament event with men's fighting men's. All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it up there. Thank you so much for watching. It is great to have everyone in the chat, and we get to talk about my favorite thing, which is arm wrestling, and I get to do it with all you wonderful people. So I'll give you a double biceps to finish it off there, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you again for watching the show. We'll see you next week. It will be Christmas next week, so I'll probably do it on a different day, but I will let everybody know what day we'll be doing it on.